NBA Deeper Dive presented by Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports. I'm Dave Lochran. With me, Adam Scher. We got an 8-game slate today, and we are rocking. Dude, it's a pretty nice slate.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for it. There's guys at the top that you like. There's some okay value. And then in the mid-range, I think there are some underpriced guys that you could actually find by like digging through rotations and stuff. I enjoy slates like that where it's not just, cut and dry. Everyone can see the same thing.
I'm with you, man. The Deeper Dive presented by Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports, home of the $200,000 NFL baller. And of course, tonight, the $30K baller, $5K to first. Go ahead, get your YSRPs. Yahoo Sports rewards points simply by signing up with us at awesemo.com. Go to the NFL tab, click on articles, and you'll see it right there. Any of the Showdown primetime articles from yesterday, whatever, it'll be right there at the top, the Yahoo link. Click that. And when you deposit, get up to $30 in YSRPs, as good as cash to use on the site to play and win real money. That's Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports, sponsor of the Deeper Dive. All right, man. Well, here's what we're going to do. I told you guys that we were going to do something good today for today's show. And I'm going to get to that in a minute. I'm going to hold off for a few minutes, wait till we get a few more people in the room, and then we're going to make that happen. But of course, glad to have all of you with us as always. And we'll start breaking this one down. David, thank you for that, brother. Appreciate all of your guys' donations on Super Chat. Means a lot to us. And here we go. So, game one, Indy and OKC. We've got a bunch. Well, Domantas Sabonis essentially is phenomenal, Adam. I DM'd you today and saying like I couldn't believe some of the numbers from this guy. With Turner off the floor, he's got a 20% rebounding rate and 20% assist rate, 24% usage. He's playing like 30 minutes in regulation. The guy's numbers are crazy this year. Let's start here. Your thoughts on the matchup in a tough one against Steven Adams?
Yeah, just an absolute monster this season. The Thunder play at a middle of the pack pace. They've been a top 10 defensive team, so that's not working in his favor. But he's playing, 37, 38 minutes a game with Turner out and Batazi out. All those minutes are coming at the 5, which we know from last season and over a small sample this season is really, really valuable for him. Even if you look at the numbers for this season and you put Malcolm Brogdon on the floor and take off Miles Turner, you still have about a 24% usage rate, 21% rebounding percentage, 21% assist percentage for Sabonis. And that's, with Brogdon out there. So just putting up monster numbers, still affordable as well. So even though it is a tougher matchup against Oklahoma City, that's not really going to deter me, especially because he has power forward eligibility.
What about the rest of this Indy team? Is there anything that stands out as a top option for you? Brogdon's price has come down. Outside of that, there isn't a ton. Jeremy Lamb remains out for this game. Miles Turner, Goga remain out at the center position. What are your thoughts outside of Sabonis?
Yeah, I think Brogdon's the other key piece for me. His salary did come down, like you said, and I really don't even think he was overpriced before. We had seen him play 30 and 32 minutes in his last couple of games, which is mildly concerning, but I think it can also be attributed in part to TJ McConnell playing really well for stretches off the bench. Obviously, that's something that can happen again. McConnell's not a bad player, but I think that, long term, you're still going to be getting those 34, 35 minutes from Brogdon. So the salary coming down is really nice. Obviously, the usage is still there, up above 28% without Turner on the floor this year. The assist percentage is still up above 40%. So I think that Brogdon's another really strong play. Like looking at cash lineups for DraftKings, it's pretty difficult to get both of Sabonis and Brogdon along with what else you want, but I expect to have one of them. I just haven't decided which one.
Okay. Anything else you want to talk about for the Pacers?
No.
On the other side, OKC, they really have not been a great fantasy team this year. Steven Adams, who, by the way, is active, that Q tag, I don't know if it's still there, but means nothing. He's playing. He's been pretty disappointing. The minutes, 25 to 27. I know it feels like he should be getting more. I don't know if that's going to be the case. You pointed out some great stats on him last week. I just don't know if today's going to be the day, or even if it was, if he's worth paying for. You can talk about that because he is discounted. outside of him, Chris Paul easily having the worst statistical season in quite some time. Lower usage, lower assists, pretty much everything. And then Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, not a big peripheral guy, but of course leading this team in usage. Are you on the OKC Thunder at all?
Not really. Indiana plays at a slow pace. It's not like it's a great matchup in that regard. Steven Adams, we talked about all the things that we like about him, and those are still true. But there's so much opportunity cost at the center position on the slate, and there's value at the forward positions and at the guard positions. So I think that trying to get Steven Adams for 28 minutes is kind of tough to do when it means passing up, depending on your site, either all or at least one of or two of Jokic, Drummond, and Embiid at the top, not to mention Anthony Davis, who is the center on DraftKings as well. So I think the opportunity cost makes it really, really tough to get to Adams.
Yeah, me too. I mean, what about the rest of OKC, though? It's just not a very appealing team on most days.
No, I mean, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, still has a 25% usage rate, but he is really capable of putting up some empty stat lines because he doesn't do a whole lot in the way of peripherals. The 36 minutes is nice. He's a viable play. He's just not one of my favorites. Dennis Schroeder, I think, could pick up an extra couple of minutes with Terrence Ferguson out. We've been seeing them close with Gilgeous-Alexander, Paul, and Schroeder all on the floor together, but his salary has come up a bit as well. And, it's just not that appealing of a matchup.
Top plays from this game? I mean, it's got to be Sabonis, right?
Yeah, Sabonis and Brogdon.
Okay. Moving on to the next one. Philadelphia and Cleveland. Philadelphia still, we don't have news. Ben Simmons was expected to miss 3 games. Like he was basically already, they had said that he wasn't going to play the next 3 games. And now that's not the case. He's questionable. His price is down pretty much everywhere. I really don't think it affects Joel Embiid all that much personally, whether he plays or not. Joel Embiid, of course, is going to produce better without Simmons, but is still a monster usage player and is coming in at a discounted price point across the board. Of course, I like Joel Embiid today, but I want to throw something out there at you. And look, he was in the deeper dive today, in the deep dive. I think there's just at this price point, it's very hard to ignore him. But one thing that's a little bit concerning is Cleveland is limiting opponents to 0.74 points per possession in the post, where Embiid almost every year is first or second in scoring and possessions. They've also committed the fewest fouls and are allowing the fewest free throw attempts of any team this season. Why do I mention that? Because so much of Embiid's production comes in the post, and he is third in free throws in the entire NBA this season. So, of course, this is a spot where Embiid being a 1.7 fantasy point per minute guy at this price is undoubtedly in play. But I actually don't think it's a great matchup. So there's 2 sides of it for me, even though I'll certainly have plenty.
Yeah, and I think the playing time is still a concern too. We know that he can get 34 to 36 minutes, but if you look at recent games, he was kind of in foul trouble against Charlotte, but still played less than 30 minutes there. He played, I think it was like 30 minutes the game before that. So the minutes are still kind of fluctuating a little bit more than you would like when there's obviously no question about the rate he can produce at, but when you're comparing him to guys like an underpriced Andre Drummond without Blake Griffin again, to Nikola Jokic, who obviously we'll talk about a lot later, it's kind of like splitting hairs because you can only roster so many of them in one lineup. And it does concern me that, Drummond, barring a blowout or foul trouble, is almost certainly going to play 36 plus minutes, and Embiid's going to play somewhere from 28 to 36. So it's another, kind of small knock against him when I think that everyone is really close out of those 3.
Yeah. I said the same thing this afternoon in the article. Like there's a lot here that makes it difficult to be in love with him. I don't know if you look at him as, all right, let me say this. If you're playing a cash lineup or you're playing a single entry tournament lineup, does Embiid fit? Is Embiid worked into your lineup?
It's a great question because I'm trying to figure it out right now.
I know that's the thing. It's tough.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's a right answer. I think that, and I'm looking at DraftKings, I think that having 2 of Embiid, Drummond, and Jokic is probably the right idea. But I really don't have a strong preference, but about which 2 it is.
All right.
I'm leaning towards the cheaper 2, Drummond and Jokic.
E-Rush, Laffy got that cotton mouth again. Bro, I honestly, you know this. I honestly do not smoke, but I smoke cigarettes. I don't smoke weed. No cotton mouth. I'm just parched, man. Just a little parched. But yeah, I did pound that water. I can understand what you're coming from. And I appreciate that, Austin. What else are you doing from the Philadelphia 76ers here? We got to Embiid. And of course, look, you mentioned it already. Essentially the same thing I've been saying. I'm assuming other people too. Drummond with no Blake is 8,900. Jokic is 83. I'll get to my thoughts on him later. There's a lot here. Embiid would be he'd be a lock on other slates. I don't know if he's a lock here. What about the rest of Philly?
Yeah, we just got news too. Trey Burke out, Ben Simmons available, Milton available. So
wow, okay. See, that actually doesn't change much for Embiid for me personally.
It doesn't change much for Embiid. It changes Korkmaz. It changes obviously Raul Neto.
Exactly. So what are your thoughts?
Trying to kind of put them together now. So it should be what? Simmons, Richardson, Korkmaz should still start at the 3, and then Harris and Embiid. Simmons is 7,400 on DraftKings, which is a really, really, really good price tag. I don't roster Simmons all that often, but I think I'll be getting a lot of him tonight at that salary. And you have to assume that he's just fully good to go unless we get word that he's on a minutes limit, right?
Yeah, you would think so. It's a shoulder injury. It's not a lower body injury or anything.
Right.
Know?
And why are you rushing him back to play against Cleveland?
Exactly. That's another great point. I'll say this much too, though. I had a sprained AC joint, I think it is.
Yeah.
I had that twice back when I was younger. Once was skateboarding. Another was I drank a case of Molson Triple X and got on a GoPed. Yeah, I hit a tree. But that was rough, man. I woke up and I had grass sticking out of a wound in my side. Not something I'd like to repeat. Here's what I'll tell you though. It hurts, but it doesn't last very long. If I remember correctly, it didn't last long. So like, I don't know if I would assume, Adam, that he has full range of motion if they're going to run him out there against Cleveland, pretty much everything you just said.
Yeah. So I'm going to project him for 36 minutes because I don't know what else to do. So yeah, I think at 7,400, he's a pretty good option. I guess not grading out quite as well as I expected him to, but still, a positive value for me at that salary. I think that it obviously cuts Neto back. I think it should make Milton irrelevant. Richardson, I would expect to take a bit of a hit because he's going to have the ball in his hands less. I don't think it changes Embiid much. I still think Harris gets a boost from Horford being out because he's going to play more minutes at the 4, which means more rebounding opportunities. So I think that I would still rank this team Embiid, Harris, Simmons, and then, you can go to Korkmaz for value still.
Okay. And then on the other side of this game, we've got the Cleveland Cavaliers. This to me might be the worst team to target along with the Hawks today. Maybe you have a different take.
Nope. Same take. Like Kevin Love and Tristan Thompson, you could make arguments for why they could have good games. But then when you start comparing them to other plays of their positions and other salaries, it starts to get pretty thin for me. So I don't anticipate having much of Cleveland at all. I would expect that the guys I have the most of are Love and Thompson, but that it's, just very, very little.
All right. So on to the next one. We've got 6 to go. I told you guys that we had something cool for you today. Now, let me first point out that our paid subscribers, you guys are phenomenal. And you have, made it so that we can do this every day. But there are also a lot of people out there that may not work with a big bankroll, may not have the money to just throw it around where they're not confident or comfortable in something. So I decided today that instead of putting out a piece of content, right, for a certain amount of likes, here's what I'm going to do, Adam. If we get to 1,000 likes on the deeper dive, we're going to open up the weekly pass on awesomeo.com with the sign up code, cheat code, all one word. We're going to open it up for a free weekly pass for anyone that gets in within the first 15 minutes after the deeper dive ends. So after the deeper dive ends, We got guys on the back end. They're going to open it up. They're going to open up the faucet, right? You could get a free weekly pass for the whole week. Anyone you want, not Fantasy Cruncher, but anyone you want. Within 15 minutes, you have to sign up. We close it off. After that, it's done. Cheat code, all one word. That's the code. Otherwise, you don't get it. Cheat code. Dude, you're not going to find shit like this anywhere else, right? We want you guys to be able to know how good it is and how good the content is at Awesemo. And then you know what? Hopefully you guys stick around because I think you'll want to afterwards. And if not, well, it was fun. Use the sign-up code, cheat code. I'm not doing 500 likes, though. We're not doing 400 likes. 1,000 likes. If we don't hit it, we'll do it another day. I won't tell you when, but we'll do it another day. 1,000 likes. We're going to open it up. Use the sign-up code, cheat code, and you'll get that week, any package you want for 1 week with the sign-up code, cheat code. You have 15 minutes after the deeper dive ends. All right. Yeah. DJ Swab says, we will crash your site. I already talked to people about this. Blake Staley, Lafayette is the Bernie of DFS. Bro, listen. you don't know. You don't know me. You don't know me. I believe in capitalism and a meritocracy, friend. But I love you guys, and we want to help you out. And we want those of you who might not have, the funds and be able to put money places when you're not confident or comfortable. We want you guys to be able to check this out and be able to see it for yourself. So you got 15 minutes right after the show ends, 15 minutes, and then it closes up for good. Sign up code, cheat code. All right. You got 1,000 likes. You got to hit 1,000. We're not doing any easy stuff. 1,000 likes. We're at 1,750 now. So, yeah, there you have it, fellas. Okay. What do you think of that, Adam? Pretty sweet, huh?
Yeah, pretty awesome.
Miami, Detroit. We spent maybe 30 seconds on Cleveland?
30 seconds more than we probably should have.
Yeah. That Bernie insult, though. I'm gonna hold that with you.
That's definitely one of my favorite things that I've heard in chat.
Now
just because I do know you.
Now I got to get the voice down. And I'm kidding, by the way. Andrew Laffy confirmed Yang Gang. You guys are phenomenal. All right. Sean Logan, Laffy going to rule the world with Yahoo reward points. Yeah. Check out the Wednesday deeper dive with Spags and me from last week. All right. Let's do it. Miami. Jimmy Butler's pretty cheap on DraftKings. It seems like he's been too cheap for a little while now. But you've got a 112.3 total for the Miami Heat, 217 over under. Of course, going up against the Miami Heat, the Detroit Pistons. Let's start with Miami because I don't think this will take as long. Pistons 104.8 total. They're 7.5-point road dogs. It will take a while for us to kind of break down this Pistons team. So let's kick it off with the Miami Heat.
Yeah, so Miami's the one team that I think we're still waiting on the most news. You have essentially the entire team is questionable. Like Tyler Hero, Kelly Olynyk are both questionable. James Johnson is questionable. Derek Jones is out. Justice Winslow is out. De'Aaron Waiters suspended. So there's a bunch of different ways that this can go. Right now, I'm projecting Johnson out, Hero in. That's not based on anything other than purely guessing. But I think that Butler and Bam are going to be the two that look the best to me. They're just both, pretty cheap. The issue you run into with Bam is that on DraftKings, he's a center. On FanDuel, he's a power forward, which is nice because obviously the opportunity cost is lower there. Not the best matchup against Detroit, but not a really bad one either. Bam's been playing big minutes when he's not in foul trouble, which is nice. And then Butler, playing 36 plus minutes in competitive games as well and doing pretty much everything for this offense. So those two, I think, are the priorities. As far as secondary plays, you can look to Goran Dragic, who's been playing bigger minutes, at least 28 in 3 of his last 4 games. I think you can look to Kendrick Nunn at 4,700 with his salary dropping. He's a player who, when Butler's in the lineup, when Dragic is healthy, I think you're going to see the minutes kind of fluctuate a little bit based on how he's playing, and he is scoring dependent. But guys like that are good plays when they're low owned and their salary's falling. They are easy fades when they are higher owned and their salary is going up. So right now, getting him on the downswing, I think not a guy that you need tons of exposure to, but I would say that he is a pretty decent value option that people probably won't really get to.
Okay, how much is he on DraftKings?
4,700.
47. Yeah, I think that makes some sense as well. Uh, do you want to expand on anyone else from Miami, or should we hit on the Pistons?
If Hero's out, I think it just gives more minutes. It solidifies minutes for Nunn and Dragic.
Okay. So talking the opposite side, Detroit. So we obviously know that Blake Griffin is going to be out for rest after playing that game last night, second end of a back-to-back. We know that Derrick Rose is out for rest purposes. Now, the big thing here is we don't have news on Brown yet, right?
Right, questionable.
Right. So we're still waiting on Bruce Brown. That's pretty big news because Reggie Jackson's still sidelined for a while. This is a tough one to kind of break down, but starting with Andre Drummond, on DraftKings, he's down to 8,900 going up against the Heat. Not a great matchup, but sub 9K Drummond with no Blake. That's a very tough price to ignore.
Yeah, no question. It makes it the exact same thing that we've seen all season long, where he has, 25+% usage, a rebound percentage up around 20%, 20 up around 26%, sorry, and an assist percentage of almost 17%. Derrick Rose is out too, so you don't have him with the ball in his hands. As far as point guards go, it's basically Tim Frazier and then possibly Bruce Brown. So Drummond should have the ball plenty. Only played 29 minutes last night due to foul trouble. Pace up spot against Miami, undersized Miami front court. Bam Adebayo is giving up like 3-4 inches and 20 to 30 pounds to Drummond. Olynyk's not the answer. So I think it's a really, really good spot. If you wanted to point to one negative in addition to it being a back-to-back, apparently they didn't get into Miami till like 6:00 this morning. So, maybe that has a negative effect, but I don't really know how to quantify that. So I'm not going to. And I think that however you would quantify it, the fact that Drummond's price tag has fallen so quickly makes up for it.
Okay. The point guard position is interesting because, Tim Frazier played 10 minutes yesterday, and that was with Derrick Rose playing playing 20 minutes, less than 20 minutes, actually. We had a question in chat, and I'm glad he mentioned it. We're going to touch on it anyway, but it's a good question. Thoughts on Langston Galloway? Langston Galloway's played 23, then 31, then 25 minutes last night against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Frazier clearly is not preferred here by Casey. 17 and 10 minutes over his last two. Of course, the Bruce Brown news looms large. Like if Bruce Brown's out, I have to give Galloway 30 plus minutes.
Yeah, I think that's the big news for me. Frazier was kind of weird last night because he only played 10 minutes, but he didn't play it all in the first half. He started the second half over Rose and then played those 10 minutes. So my takeaway was that I'm expecting it to be kind of like it was before Frazier got hurt and that he starts and plays, 20, 22 minutes, in which case, Galloway I have in the low to mid 20s as well. If they were to start Galloway or something, then that would change. But I'm kind of viewing it more based on how that second half went than how that whole game went last night.
Okay. So what are you thinking then depending on the injury situations?
I mean, if Brown's in, I think you're getting around 26 minutes for Brown, around 24 for Galloway, around 20 for Tim Frazier. It's kind of a mess. Like I could see taking a shot on DraftKings specifically at a $3,000 Tim Frazier, just because $3,000 is such a favorable price point for anyone who potentially could do well. But I only have him projected for like 18 points, so not a play I'm excited about. There's not a whole lot outside of Drummond that I love from Detroit. I think Markieff Morris is an okay value too, with Griffin out, but it's pretty much just Drummond as far as priorities go.
Yeah, I'm with you. Although I do think the Bruce Brown news could be. Langston Galloway is not a guy that's going to give you a lot of peripherals at all. But keep in mind, if he's out there and Bruce Brown's out of the game, and you're out on the floor with Luke Kennard and Markieff Morris and Snell or whoever, and Andre Drummond, Galloway's going to be forced to take more of a ball handling role, whether he wants to or not. So I'd pay attention to the Bruce Brown news. But if he's in, I'm pretty much avoiding this entire backcourt, and it's just Andre Drummond. I do think Markieff Morris is fine. If people are going to be going to guys like, Chandler Hutchison on FanDuel and Jakar Sampson at small forward, I'd rather just find a little bit more and get to Markieff Morris. Not because I think he's great, but those guys just no upside at all. At least Morris with a good game can give you 35.
Yeah. I have Morris at 30 minutes. I mean, the issue is just that you don't really get peripherals because Drummond takes all the rebounds. But he has a 21% usage rate. He's cheap enough where, I don't think he's a core guy, but he's definitely one of the pieces of value that I'm rotating through.
Okay. Talking about Chicago, what are you guys at? You got 734 likes. All right, 735. So we need 265 likes to hit that 1K mark and get everybody a free weekly pass by using the sign up code, cheat code, all one word. You got a 15-minute window after the deeper dive ends to go sign up and use the sign up code, cheat code. But no, we're not doing, oh, you got to 900. We'll do it anyway. Nope. Got to get to 1,000. It's not that tough. Chicago, New York Knicks. Man, the Bulls are actually decent favorites here against the Knicks. We've got 6.5 point favorites, 109 total for them, 102.5 for the Knicks, 211 over under in this game. One of the lower ones on the slate for sure. But I think it's a very interesting spot here for a couple of reasons, and then you can expand on it. Otto Porter Jr. is out. Which is, it makes things a little bit more interesting. Chandler Hutchison is going to get some minutes. Kobe White might see some more minutes. He played 30 and then 27 last game, completely reliant on scoring, right? Highest 25% usage rate, which is really nice, just nothing else. And if the shot starts to fall, you're going to start getting good games because he's shooting 34% and 21% from three. He's shooting terribly this year, but he's actually getting a ton of opportunities. Zach LaVine, I guess we're probably going to see some Frank Ntilikina on LaVine, which makes life a little difficult. And apparently Larry Markkanen's been dealing with an illness or an oblique injury. So there's all of that. And I'll throw this out there. Wendell Carter Jr. is 6th in the league in double-doubles. He's got 6 double-doubles in 10 games, which is amazing given how often he is in foul trouble. If he's not in foul trouble, Wendell Carter Jr. makes for a pretty solid fantasy option. I'm giving him 30 minutes today, barring foul trouble. $5,600 on DK is pretty interesting to me. Your take on the Chicago Bulls.
So I agree with you on Carter. The rebounding opportunities have been amazing this year. Foul trouble has been the biggest issue, but we finally seen him getting 30 to 32 minutes when he's not in foul trouble. He also has power forward eligibility on DraftKings, which makes it a little bit better. So I think he's fine. LaVine, I think, also a secondary option. The two things that I think are really interesting from the Bulls are Markkanen and Kobe White, but for different reasons. For anyone who watched the strategy show today, I was really high on Kobe White. I've since changed on that. He played as many minutes against Houston in their last game as I expected him to without Porter. But looking at the rotation, it went differently than I expected it to. He essentially, for the most part, was just the backup to Chandler Hutchison. Ryan Arcidiacono was back in the rotation. He backed up Zach LaVine. White picked up extra minutes when Hutchison got in foul trouble in the second quarter, and then he picked up extra minutes in garbage time at the end of the fourth. Other than that, it's really tough to be confident in his minutes. Like, he played 27, but he got a few extra. I have him projected for 24 because I would like to think that maybe he can take a couple from Arcidiacono, but based on that rotation, I don't even know if that's the case. So I think that he's cheap enough where he has upside if he gets the minutes, but right now we have him projected for pretty decent ownership. And with Arcidiacono back in the rotation, I'm not really that confident in his minutes. On the other side with Markkanen, obviously a little concerning that Jim Boylan came out today and said that he's been dealing with an oblique issue for the last 2 weeks, which, kind of coincides with him not being very good. But a lot of players play banged up, and if they're not going to hold him out of games, I'm not going to really factor in too much that he's hurt, especially at a really cheap price tag. He's $6,400 on DraftKings. What really does stand out, though, is over the last 2 games, he's been playing backup center behind Wendell Carter Jr. Last game, Luke Cornett played 6 or 8 minutes. And other than that, Markkanen was the backup center. The game before that, you got even less time for Cornett. And that does 2 things, because for one, it gives you more productive minutes. Last year, he averaged 1.32 DraftKings points per minute when he was the center. But it also opens the door for him to play more minutes. And we've seen 33 and 34 minutes the last 2 games. The reason that opens the door for more minutes is because Thaddeus Young is going to get his. Like, Young's not going to just play 14 minutes a night. But by playing Markkanen at center, you can still give Young 22, 24 minutes, and Markkanen can still get his 34. So I really like Markkanen despite the news on the injury at his salary.
All right. Yeah, the whole Kobe White thing is, will the minutes be there? I don't know. The opportunities are going to be there in terms of when he's on the floor. The guy's jacking up shots left and right. But yeah, that's certainly a tough spot. I don't have an issue with him at the price point. I don't feel confident in it though. Like, to the point where if Bruce Brown was out and you had Galloway and Kobe White at the same price, and Kobe White had way more ownership, I'd be fine going Galloway over and put it that way. And I don't love Galloway, so it should give you an idea of where I stand. On the Knicks side, Julius Randle is one of 4 players to lead his team in usage, potential assists, rebound chances, and touches. Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic, and Giannis Antetokounmpo are the other 3. That's pretty good company. And I have a feeling you're going to start to see the fantasy totals improve going forward. He is such a big role. He plays such a big role in this offense, Adam. And it's not like his minutes have been limited even a little bit. I'd be buying Julius Randle going forward.
Yeah, I've been rostering him a lot. I think he's a good play tonight. The one thing that'll keep my exposure to him in check a little bit is just the way the slate breaks down. You have so many strong center options. And then, I really like Markkanen, who's quite a bit less expensive than him. But I do think he's the best play from the Knicks. He's still reasonably priced. The usage is there. The assists are there. The rebounding's there. I think it's just a matter of time before you see more big games out of him. So I completely agree with you on that.
Okay. How about the rest of the Knicks? Barrett's cheap, but we're clearly seeing that crazy volatility for a young guard like him. Mitchell Robinson out for this one. Is there anywhere else in this game that you like for the Knicks? Because for me, it's Randall and pretty much hard stop after that.
Yeah, I mean, the only other guys that grade out like remotely well for me are Barrett and Bobby Portis, but it's just as filler.
Okay. Anything else for this game?
Nope.
Let's talk about Utah and Brooklyn. By the way, for those of you that want to get 50% off your monthly pass at awesemo.com, yeah, 50% off by using the sign-up code Deeper Dive, all one word. So use that to get all of our content. Of course, we have the Fantasy Cruncher add-on as well, awesemo.com/join. If you scroll to the bottom, you'll see video tutorials on all of our most popular tools, projections, player projections, ownership projections, top stack, Slack, the lineup builder, all of our premium articles from Adam, myself, and everybody else that handles sport, that every sport that is offering DFS contests, we've got premium content for it. Use the sign-up code Deeper Dive, get you 50% off your first month, half off the top of your first month of Awesemo Plus membership. That's Deeper Dive, all one word, at awesemo.com/join. Utah, Brooklyn. Utah playing their second of a back-to-back today, Adam, coming off a road win against the Golden State Warriors. Donovan Mitchell is pretty reasonably priced. I just don't know how I get there today. Mike Conley also reasonably priced, but I feel like 35 fantasy points is a stellar game from him at this point. What are you doing with the Utah Jazz first?
Yeah, I think that Gobert and Mitchell are the 2 best plays from Utah for me. It's tough to get to Gobert just because of the center position, but pretty decent matchup against the Brooklyn front court, and his price tag's down because he hasn't been that great this season. His rates are down across the board, but we have a pretty long track record of Gobert and what he can do, so a little bit underpriced. And then Donovan Mitchell, 30% usage this year, 23% assist percentage, playing 35, 36 minutes a night in competitive games in a pace-up spot against Brooklyn, I think is my favorite play from Utah.
Okay. So you don't have much at all from Utah, basically.
No, like behind them, Conley and Boyan are fine, but not guys that I expect to get tons of.
Yeah, give me Boyan's brother. We'll get to him shortly. Brooklyn. So Karis LeVert is out. Let's first start. Well, you know what? We can start wherever with this one. Actually, it'll probably be interesting to get your take on Spencer Dinwiddie and how you see this closing lineup working. I know you DM'd me earlier about it, and I thought it was a good point, something we need to touch on for the show.
Yeah, I think that he is a really, really interesting play today because obviously it's a tough matchup against Utah, and people generally don't want to go there. But he should have very little ownership here. I'm expecting Garrett Temple to start, which is perfectly fine. But if Dinwiddie starts, I don't think it matters. Essentially, I expect his minutes to be staggered with Kyrie Irving. So if Dinwiddie plays about 30 minutes, I expect like half of his minutes to be without Irving on the floor and the other half to be alongside Irving. I expect whether he starts or Temple starts, that most likely Brooklyn closes with Dinwiddie in the lineup. So that's how I'm getting him to 30 minutes. But his rates, if you go back to last season and look without any of D'Angelo Russell, Kyrie Irving, or Karis LeVert on the floor, he's played 874 minutes, 31% usage, 40% assist percentage. And it's not like he's a low usage guy when he's been on the floor with one of those guys. So when you average it all out, I have him projected for about a 28.5% usage rate, 31% assist percentage, and he's pretty cheap. But also on top of that, if you go to NBA.com and look at different lineups that Utah has used, while they are a good defensive team and they don't play fast, they're two bench units, whether it's Moutier Mitchell in the backcourt or Mitchell and Ingles when Moutier was out. They're the two fastest lineups that Utah has. So it's not quite as much of a pace down spot either for the time that Dinwiddie's out there playing with the second unit.
Okay. Do you have him as a priority anywhere, do you think?
Because of his price point, I think I'll get a lot. And also because of the low ownership. Like when I'm just looking individually at players and their salaries, he grades out as good, but not as like one of the best plays. But then when I start trying to actually make a lineup and I need someone in his price range, he's one of the guys that I get to a lot.
Okay. Talk to me about the rest of this team. For me, this is just a game that I don't have an abundance of interest in. I think there are pieces that I'm okay with. But for the most part, I like value better than the center position here, especially with DeAndre Jordan healthy. The wing positions don't stand out to me as great. The matchup for Brooklyn's pretty shitty too. So I don't know, just not a top spot for me.
Yeah, I think it's a good spot for Kyrie I guess good spot's not the right word, but without LeVert on the floor this season, 33.5% usage, 44% assist percentage. And, he's priced up, but he's not super expensive. So at only 10% ownership, I think Kyrie is a good play also. But once you get past Kyrie and Dinwiddie, that's it.
How about this game between the Denver Nuggets and the Atlanta Hawks? Hawks have a sub 100 implied total. 209 over under here. They're 10-point dogs, 109.8 for the Nuggets. But yeah, it's rare that you see a sub 100 total in today's basketball, Adam.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Denver playing at the slowest pace in the league. Atlanta has Trae Young and then not much else offensively. Without John Collins, Parker can obviously do some stuff, but just a really, really unappealing spot for them going into Denver. I think even more so than Cleveland, they're my least favorite team on the slate. Trae Young's the only guy that even looks mildly appealing to me. And when you start comparing him to Kyrie Irving, Damian Lillard, Malcolm Brogdon, all these other point guard options, he falls off pretty quick for me.
Okay. Well, Nikola Jokic. I went on a couple tweet rants about him today. And I will read them to you quickly, two of them, because I think it's important. So essentially, everything is the talk is that he's a fat slob, right? And I actually that's not what I'm saying. That's what people are saying. I actually read an article that was upset about the fat shaming, which that took it to a whole other level. But I'm not getting into that crap. Nikola Jokic has been more productive and efficient. This is, and I quote Laffy_D on Twitter. Follow me. Nikola Jokic has been more productive and efficient in the fourth quarter than any other quarter this season. You'd think for a guy that's allegedly more concerned with housing grand slams at Denny's than he is at playing basketball, he'd be especially tired down the stretch. Look, I try and inject some humor into it, but it's true. If he was that fat and that out of shape, wouldn't he be terrible in the fourth quarter?
Yeah, I thought that was actually a pretty interesting stat. And
I found it all on my own, Adam.
Yeah. Well, in addition to that, I just keep going back to when did he not look out of shape?
Yes, I know. I responded to somebody with, People are under the impression that he concluded the 2018-19 season looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Right. Like I'm sure he is in very good shape. He's a professional basketball player. He has never at any point in his career, when you watch him play basketball in a basketball uniform, looked like someone that is in
plays
great shape.
basketball. Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's not like it's not Eddie Lacy. Like just showing up and very, very clearly having gained like 35 pounds.
Who they actually had to offer financial incentives to not get fat.
Right. Yeah, it's not, it's just not that. So, and on top of that, and we have a history of him doing this every single season at different
every
points.
year.
The only reason this is a conversation as much as it is right now is because it happens to be in the first 2 weeks of the season. If this were February and he was going through his 2 weeks of, I don't know, he just doesn't feel like playing basketball or shooting basketballs, it would just be like, Jokic is doing that thing again. But now it's like he gained 600 pounds over the summer and now he's not in good enough shape.
So, and I agree with everything, of course. So this year, Jokic, this might add to the conspiracy theory. This year, Jokic is running an average of 1.76 miles per game. Last year, he ran 2.19 miles per game. Okay, you ready for this? This year, his average speed is 3.92 miles per hour. Last year, his average speed was 3.95 miles per hour. So I don't know, man. Maybe he's getting weighed down. He's running like a quarter mile or no, like 0.4 miles extra per game. What do you say to that?
He's also been in foul trouble like 6 times this year already.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, it's dumb to me. And on top of all of that, it's a completely moot point because he's $8,300. We're not talking about 10K Jokic where you actually need him to like still be having a 30% usage rate. He shot the ball at least 20 times in each of his last 2 games. This is essentially the same team personnel wise that it was last year. There's just no argument that really can convince me that Nikola Jokic is more likely to be what he has been to this point this season than what he has been going back to like last year.
Okay. And yeah, all of his rates are down and he still leads the team in every relevant statistical category.
Right.
Every one of them. I mean, maybe not blocks or steals, but he's up there.
As he did last year.
Exactly. $8,300 on. And by the way, look, his rates are down a bit. Like, I'm not going to lie. The potential assists are down like 4 per game. There are some things that aren't great, but I'm just not going to pretend that at 8,300, this guy, especially look, the fourth quarter, that has to mean something, that this guy has been better in the fourth quarter than any other quarter. It has to mean something. The price across the board is just too cheap.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, he's being defended by Damian Jones and Alex Len today.
Yep. Exactly. Cue the horrible Jokic game. I'm waiting for it, but I don't even care at this point.
I mean, it's not like it's the first time that we've gone on this tangent and then he's had a bad game. It's been happening every time he plays this season.
Right. What are your thoughts on the rest of Denver? For me, it's pretty much just Jokic, but maybe there's some talk about Millsap that needs to happen.
Yeah, Millsap at 4,900 is okay. Not a great play for me. I actually have more interest in Jamal Murray just because he's, I think, a pretty good tournament play because he's second on the team in usage to Jokic. He's actually the only player. I think if I have the stuff I'm looking at right, he's the only player on Denver with a usage rate above 20%, except for Nikola Jokic. So, I mean, and we've even seen that in the past where there's a lot of games where, like, if Jokic doesn't go off, it's because Murray's having one of those games. So I think that Murray's actually my second favorite guy on Denver behind Jokic.
Okay. Outside of those guys, I think that's pretty much it. Atlanta, maybe the least appealing team on this slate. Any interest here?
No, we already did that, but we can do it again. Still none.
My fault. My fault. Reading chat here, trying to juggle a lot of things at once. Phoenix and the LA Lakers. Did we do this game yet?
If I say yes, can we go? No, we did not.
Okay. I know, by the way, 220 total. Lakers only 3-point favorites on the road. This Phoenix team been a surprise. The upstart Phoenix Suns 111.5 total for the Lake Show, 108.5 for the Suns. So yeah, let's start with the Lakers. I was baffled by the ownership that was coming in on LeBron James early in the day. Like, he leads the league in triple doubles. He has a 52% assist rate, highest of his career by 7%. He leads the league in assists. Like, he's just putting up insane numbers. And I don't know, it's not like he's Christian McCaffrey price point. We've got him at 7% on DraftKings right now, dude.
Yeah, it's really weird to me. Like, I understand why it's low.
Yeah, why he's not the highest owned player, of course. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, like he's the most expensive player on the slate. There's a ton of great options that are cheaper, etc. But it's really low. If it stays that low, I'd be surprised if I didn't get more just because of the ownership. Like, I don't have him projected as the best value or even close to it, but I still have him projected as the highest scorer on the slate. The other thing that's weird to me is that Anthony Davis is projected for higher ownership. Not that I think he's a bad play whatsoever, just that I think other people tend to get scared by the whole injury thing. Like, we had a whole conversation in Slack earlier about, people were like, oh yeah, well, what if Davis doesn't play? And it's like, yeah, he's probable. He said he's fine. The team said he's playing. Like, the only reason people are thinking he might not play is because Anthony Davis goes to the locker room sometimes.
Right. But, exactly. It's just really surprising to me that it was that low. And like you said, you just made some valid points. And I would agree entirely. It's not like I expect LeBron to be the highest owned player on the slate. I never anticipated that to be the case. Even Harden at that crazy price wasn't. But LeBron's just been so dominant from a fantasy perspective this season. He's averaging 35 plus minutes per game. Like, put it this way, if he actually comes in at 7%, what would you want?
I would at least like 15, hopefully.
Right. Yeah. And even that feels a little low, but of course, roster construction comes into play. What are you doing?
The caveat to that is I don't manually really adjust a whole lot. So
right.
Like, there's some chance that if he is still 7% at 630, that I still end up with like 7%. I'm hoping that that's not the case.
For sure. What about Anthony Davis?
Yeah, I think 10K is too cheap on him too. The issue you run into there is that, he has power forward eligibility though, so it's not that big of an issue. You can still roster him alongside guys like Drummond and Jokic, but you do also have Sabonis, you also have Markkanen, guys that I really like at the power forward position that are less expensive.
Okay. Anything else for the Lakers?
If you wanted to throw a dart that this is the game Kuzma gets like 28 minutes, I think it's possible it happens, but I also even if I project him for 28 minutes, he comes out as like a neutral play. So I'm not really sure it's worth the risk.
Okay. By the way, if there's anything you want to add to this, Tyler Hero's out, Kelly Olynyk in.
Okay. So that solidifies minutes for Nunn, Dragic. You would think Butler is, more towards the 36 plus than like 34 plus range. Do we have James Johnson news?
James Johnson out.
Okay. So the only bodies they have are Chris Silva, Myers Leonard, Robinson, Nunn, Olynyk, Dragic, Bam, Butler.
Yes.
And I guess Haslam maybe.
Yeah. Is he still alive?
He's on the roster.
He hasn't played yet, but he is there.
So they have 8 bodies plus maybe a live one. Yeah, so Hero being out really changes things because that was 24 plus minutes of a scorer and someone that can handle the ball that's not out there anymore. So, I think you're looking at more minutes for Nunn, more minutes for Dragic, more minutes for Butler. Chris Silva should be the backup center behind Bam.
I feel like they have more than 8.
Who are the other ones?
Read them one more time.
Butler, Bam, Dragic, Olynyk, Nunn, Robinson, Leonard, Silva, and then Haslam.
Yeah, I guess that is it.
Because I'm pretty sure because Jones is out, Winslow's out, Waiters is out, Opala's out, Johnson's out, Hero's out.
Yeah, no, you're right. Wow. Okay, so run it down one more time because we actually are doing pretty good on time. Run it down one more time. Anything you're prioritizing, anything you expect to see that should be talked about for this team that right now, like you said, 8 bodies, by the way, in November is very rare.
So yeah, so I think that Kendrick Nunn should probably be like 32 to 34 minutes. No, Butler is probably going to play 36 to 38. Bam should play like 36. Dragic probably gets 30 to 32. Olynyk, I would think, plays 28 to 30. Leonard should stop playing 12 and should be back into like the mid 20s also. And then Duncan Robinson probably plays like 32, 34.
Alex Baker also says they have Daryl McCon too. I thought wasn't he assigned to G League?
I'm not sure. I'm seeing him listed somewhere else too.
So maybe they brought him back up.
Yeah.
Okay. Could be the case. If they brought him up, then you got 9. Okay.
Which either way, like all that, like if he even gets in the rotation, it probably just like takes some minutes from Duncan Robinson.
Right. Yeah, I can't imagine it does a lot. Let me just see here. He is.
Yeah, he's back. Ira Winderman.
He's back.
Yeah.
Okay. Good stuff, Alex. What about Phoenix here? Now we close out this Lakers Suns game. Anything you like for the Suns? By the way, does it not feel like there are a good amount of teams on this slate where you kind of just have zero interest in them as a team?
Yeah, but it's weird because it's still, I think, a really appealing slate with a lot of good plays.
Exactly. But I feel like a lot of them are coming from like 4 or 5 teams.
Yeah, I agree. And Phoenix is not one of them for me.
That's exactly where I was going with it.
Yeah, Lakers play slow. Rubio's priced up. Booker is losing assist opportunities and usage to Rubio. Aaron Baines is okay, but he's a center, and you just have so many other centers. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing that I expect to be a big part of my night from Phoenix.
Okay. Me neither. Now we got time to cover this last game, which is good because I really like this game. Sacramento and Portland, highest total on the slate, number 1. Number 2, some really quality plays, 222 total. Portland 2-point favorites with a 112 implied total, 110 for the Kings. De'Aaron Fox is out, and of course Marvin Bagley's out too. I know that Buddy Hield's going to be the very popular play, and I do to some extent understand that, but I feel pretty confident that Bogdan Bogdanovic is going, and we'll get to Corey Joseph. Don't worry. That Bogdanovic is going to see a lot of opportunities as a ball handler, initiating the offense. He's already towards the top of he's already second on the team in potential assists this season. I think per 36, he's averaging like 7 or 8. We've seen this in the past. We know that if you take him from since the start of last season, if you take Fox off the court and you take Bagley off the court, you're going to see some really solid numbers. 28.9% usage rate, 27.5% assist, 1.13 fantasy points per minute in almost 450 minutes. This season, with both of them off 117 minutes, 30% usage, 30.5% assists, 1.14 fantasy points per minute. I think the price is great. I expect him to play 32 minutes, and I think he actually benefits even more than Buddy Hield from this scenario, although Hield is fine.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing I'll add to that is if you look at his numbers from last year without Bagley or Fox and with Hield on the floor, which will be the case for a large percentage of the minutes, or probably like half the minutes he plays, still 28.2% usage and a 27% assist percentage. So it's not like he just disappears when Buddy Hield's out there. I only have him at 28 minutes, but that's still getting me to a lot of him. I don't think 32 is crazy. I'll probably actually just end up splitting the difference at 30, but I think that he's a really, really good value. He's one of my preferred options on this slate. As far as Buddy Hield goes, I think that he's a good play, but I don't really know how much he benefits without Fox. He
hasn't really in the past.
Right. 27.5% usage rate, averaged about 1.05 points per minute without Fox or Bagley last year. Yeah, like I think he's good, but I think that Bogdanovic and then Corey Joseph, just as the obvious value option, are ahead of Hield on the list for me.
Okay. I'm with you, by the way, and everyone, not everyone, a bunch of people in chat. Um, Corey Joseph Locke. I get it, Adam. Like I get it. He's super cheap. Going to play some good minutes, but locking him into your lineup does not mean you're locking in Corey Joseph production. Well, if you're locking in Corey Joseph production, oftentimes you're very disappointed. I totally get it. I'm not going to talk anyone off it, and I know I'm going to have decent amount of Corey Joseph myself. But I guess put it this way: I'm never as confident in his ability to produce as others are. The big thing though is he's just really, really cheap.
Yeah, I mean, last year with Indiana, he played 1,296 minutes without Collison or Oladipo on the floor. He averaged zero point 0.8 points per minute. Like, cool. It's a very good point per dollar play. It's really unlikely that he's the reason you win or lose a tournament. And he should have a ton of ownership. So definitely playing him in cash. More than happy to try and find some pivots in tournaments.
Okay, right, and that's exactly where I'm at. I'm there. I get it. I'll have him. But if Corey Joseph finishes with like 6, 3, and 5, you'd probably be happy. A couple steals in there, 22 fantasy points. That would be what you're looking for. What are your thoughts on Rashawn Holmes? I've seen ownership and projections really high on this guy today.
Yeah, I think he's okay. He's like similar to Bobby Portis for me. I have him at 30 minutes. I think that he should produce around the point per minute. I have him at 0.95 DraftKings points per minute. It's not someone that I'm getting tons of. His usage this year is only at 15%. He has a 13.9% rebounding percentage. He still has to deal with guys like Bogdanovich and Hield taking a high percentage of the shots. So yeah, I think that he's okay, especially as a power forward option, but I'm not as like in love with him as some other people.
Okay. No, neither am I. Actually, I was a little bit surprised to see the projected ownership on him. Anything else that you like for the Kings?
No, not particularly.
All right. What about Portland? Damian Lillard, do you know he leads the entire league in minutes this season? Terry Stotts just DGAF, man. He's averaging almost 39 minutes per game in regulation. Uh, Pretty wild stuff. And of course, when you're averaging like 1.4 fantasy points per minute, 40 minutes per game is going to usually put you in a good spot. What I want to know from you is, are you paying up at point guard today, though?
Not a ton, especially because like you have Brogdon as a mid-range option, you have Dinwiddie that I like. I am prioritizing those centers, but I do still really like Lillard. I think that he's pretty comparable to Kyrie. I like the matchup a little bit better. Both Utah and Sacramento are slow teams, but Sacramento is the much worse team defensively. So I'd give a slight edge to Lillard there. But as far as roster construction goes, just not sure how much I'm paying up at the position.
Do you like anything from Portland?
I like
Um,
Whiteside too. His minutes have been up. He played 35 minutes in overtime last game. He played, I believe it was 34 minutes the game before that. So, I have him at 31 minutes here. Center is really tough, but he is available at a much cheaper price point than the other guys that we really like. So I think that he's a pretty decent option. McCollum is okay. But I think Lillard and Whiteside are my two favorite guys from Portland.
okay. I guess that'll do it. Of course, stick around after the show. Eddie Fear, Chris Randone coming up live before lock, taking you up till 7 p.m. Eastern time. If you haven't done so already, hit that like button. It helps us out a lot. And we appreciate all of you. It'll bring you very good luck as well. Subscribe, hit the notification bell. So here it is. We hit 1,000. Boom. We got there, baby. And like I said, I'm a man of my word. You go over to awesomemode.com and you use the sign up code cheat code. As soon as this show ends, you have a 15-minute window. If you're driving, you got to pull over, you do it. You got 15 minutes to get your weekly pass because we hit the 1K. The sign up code, cheat code, one word, cheat code. We will see you back here tomorrow.
I have no idea if and when we're live.
We're
so
not.
Okay.
We're not live at all. Like,
He's saying go ahead. He's saying go ahead. So start the show, and I think Lofty is maybe watching and listening to us, and we'll hit a button. We'll see how it goes. Just pretend we're live.
We don't know if we're live, but we're going to go ahead and kick it off anyway.
We don't know if any of us are live. This could all be a simulation. Could be a simulation.
Well, we're going to go ahead and just roll with it. All right. So Chris Randone here, Fast Eddie Fear. It is theosmo.com, live before lock, presented by Super Draft. Tuesday night, we got an 8-game slate. Welcome, everyone. And Eddie, welcome yourself.
Hi, Eddie. I welcomed myself. How you doing? Good to see you again, Chris. Someone made a funny joke last week. They said, yeah, you have Eddie on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And on Tuesday, he has Chris Randone. And on Thursday, he has Chris Spags. And on Wednesday, he has Josh. So you have Josh sandwiched between two Chris's, which is also the name of my Osmo.com fan fiction.
You want to know what else's fiction is right now? They can hear us, but they can't see us.
Okay, that's right. No. Now, don't get me wrong. You and I are a couple of pieces of beefcake. You and I are a lot of man candy, especially relative to some others. But I think hearing is important. So I think you and I should continue to speak learnedly about such things involving round leather balls, and then maybe the video will show up at some point. That'd be great, but doesn't seem essential.
Well, listen, since the video hasn't shown up yet and they can hear me, I'm going to go ahead and just plug this real quick because Super Draft, our sponsor, deserves that. You guys, the future of daily fantasy sports has arrived. Experience Super Draft's exclusive game mode. It's called the Multiplier. Say goodbye to all those salary restrictions and hello to lineup freedom. Use your fantasy sports knowledge to draft any player you want and build your own dream team. Countless lineup possibilities let you experience daily fantasy sports the way you want. And they also offer every sport, NFL, MLB, NBA, NHL, and PGA. So you can enjoy the best of DFS all year round. And if you want to sign up for Super Draft today, use the promo code AWESEMO, AWESEMO. Claim your free $20 in Super Cash with your first deposit of $100 or more. Download in the App Store or play at superdraft.io. Super Draft, no limits, more winning. And you guys, we're hoping that we're going to be winning tonight because you know what, Eddie, we got an 8-game slate. It's kind of a difficult one. I think probably one of the most tougher slates we've seen over the last couple weeks because there are some areas and some positions that it's really hard to know where to go. How do you feel about it?
I love it. It's more games on a Tuesday than a Monday, which is, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. Tuesday is supposed to be my easy day. Last night I start researching around 11 o'clock. I'm like, oh, what is this happy horse shit? Like I really thought get a little 4-gamer in there, get a little extra Modern Warfare in, but negative hours and hours and hours of research. It's a weird one. I am told there is some sort of dealio today where you can get my rankings for free. Version 6 is currently in. Certainly version 7 and 8 are probably upcoming as we get more news close to lock. But there's all sorts of people with weird rankings. I want to shout out right from the beginning, Corey Joseph. Corey Joseph tonight for the first player in history. I have done rankings well over 1,000 times. I've done them 10 months a year. Again, preseason, postseason, a little summer league action in there. He is the first player ever to get an A in cash from me and a C in GPPs. First player ever to get an AC. I've had almost every other rankings combination. I went back and looked, searched those two fields. First player ever. We haven't projected a 51 and some odd change in tournaments. I despise playing Corey Joseph in my tournament lineup. Despise playing Corey Joseph in my tournament line. He's fine. He's Corey Joseph. He's career, I think, somewhere around 0.75 fantasy points a minute.
Is he fine though? Because I mean, you're paying basically, the price is there, but yeah. I mean, I never like to be in a situation where I'm paying for low usage and very high ownership when it comes to GPPs.
I mean, look, the matchup is brilliant. Well, I don't know about brilliant. I mean, Portland is going to be better than they have been, and the matchup is good. And I think the predominant likelihood, though by no means certainty, is that Corey Joseph gets out there and starts, and I have him for 31 minutes right now, which is where I put the average. I think as many games you would see more than that as less than that. And he's a very good play, but on an incredibly juicy slate with just lots of other great plays. I don't see, the need to get there. In the last game, he played 29 minutes against Atlanta, which is an even better matchup. It's a much better matchup. It's one of the best matchups you can have. And he scored 24 fantasy points. Tonight I have him for 31 minutes and 24 fantasy points. So that's fine. But again, as a projection, that should mean that that's the median, or potentially, I suppose, the mode output or what have you. But that's about what we think he's going to get on average, meaning half the time he's going to get less than that. So in theory, if that's roughly the projection I've seen basically everywhere I've looked, yeah, I'm thrilled to get away from a 50% owned Corey Joseph, who probably stuff will happen between now and that game, which is not till I think 10 p.m. Eastern, where that number, may come down, but not that many people are late swapping. And if people are locking that guy in, yeah, if you're telling me there's a 30% chance he scores less than 20, I'm thrilled not to have 52% Corey Joseph in my GPP line. So the first AC in the history, I didn't think we could get there, but we did it. There he is. It's a big moment for me.
We'll get into that game a little bit more because that is the last game on this slate. But correct me if I'm wrong.
I think at this point we're going to have to jump around. I think we're going to have to throw out the script.
I think
we have to just talk about stuff and move around. I know we've been working on having like show running sheets and being more organized and disciplined, and that's great. But it's 6:15. The slate starts in 45 minutes, and there's 8 games, and we wouldn't even get to the last few until we had, not enough time for anyone to actually do anything with that information. So I think you should just run with it. Freestyle. Do like some spoken word rap for me or something.
Listen, I'm all about it. So we can go ahead and roll with this however we want. But correct me if I'm wrong. Your rankings tonight are free if we get to 1,500 likes. Is that correct?
That's what somebody told me, and they are up. They are up to date as of 4 minutes ago. And this is going to be tough because it's really hard to get the time to update them well.
Well, it shouldn't be tough to get 400 more. So there's 2,600 people in here. Go ahead and give this a thumbs up because we can go ahead and get those rankings out right now. They'll be free.
God. Here we go again. They're already out. You just will be able to see them. But yeah, now I gotta. Sorry, Bruce Brown is playing and starting. So ratings update 7 coming in. But go ahead, keep talking. My bad.
No. What I was gonna say is you mentioned Corey Joseph, and I wanted to ask you when it comes to like the matchup when two players have faced off against each other. Do you value that for any reason?
I don't think anyone who doesn't spend, 20 plus hours a week looking at basketball should ever value that in any way because it is incredibly noisy. There are times it is a brilliantly useful statistic. There are times where this guy and this guy are playing center most frequently. I know they're going to guard each other. And one of them has a history of 2 or 5 or 7 or 8 or 9 years of schooling the other guy. And I know I can count on that, and it's great. And that's a pretty small rarity. And then there's just degrees you have to take away from it. There's times that it's relevant. I looked earlier this year, and I saw lots of Bobby Portis and Wendell Carter play against each other when those two teams got together just a few weeks ago. And I can take some inspiration from that, having watched the entire game. But frequently, guys change positions. There are other players there. The rotations don't match up. The coach has changed. There's any number of ways those stats will screw you. And frequently, people go back and draw them from 7 years ago. So, and there are also players who are remarkably consistent player by player, where like Andre Drummond has some completely sick head-to-head matchups where the team has to guard him with that guy because they don't have any other options and he has excelled. For example, Andre Drummond, if Miles Turner was going to come back from injury and Andre Drummond was there, they should just leave him out because he literally would perforate parts of Miles Turner's body every single time they got on the court against each other. He just cannot handle that smoke. So, and like there's a level of consistency. It's most relevant at center and then second most relevant at power forward. And then this is basically, it falls down to the odds of players consistently guarding each other. And again, the further you get away from center, the less frequently that happens. And the more switching that goes on, the further you move away. So when you get to, shooting guard, especially point guards match up a little more than shooting guards and threes, but it's one of the reasons why lots of sites give you like defense versus position and this guy guarding this guy. That just doesn't translate. That swaps around all the hell over the place on the wings. You see it all the time. You'll see it several times in games this evening regarding who is going to guard to. I could pull up a number of examples pretty quickly, but there's just lots of ways that does not turn out.
No, I get it. I was just mentioning it because I did pull up the history between Lillard and Joseph,
Sure.
between minutes on the floor between the two. And,
Yep.
Joseph has started 5 games against him, and they've played 17 games total between each other. And there's just been no production there from Corey Joseph. And so, sometimes you try to give yourself a little bit more affirmation onto, is this player someone I should roster in GBP? And with all this ownership, like, where are ways that I can gain an edge, or is this something that is an optimal play? So, that's just kind of what I was referring to.
Yeah, your instinct is right. And I don't think there is a big takeaway from there. And again, you're looking at Corey Joseph, on his fourth team. So his usage was going to look different in Toronto and so on and so forth. And this Lillard team is a little different from other Lillard teams, and their defense is significantly worse, and their pace is a little bit higher than you'd have, previous Portland teams. So it's always tends to be really, really, really noisy. But yeah, again, for me, it's just 52% ownership. I'm good, thanks.
Well, let's stick on the point guard position because there was some news that we were waiting for. Ben Simmons will be playing.
Yeah.
Al Horford is out. We also have some news down in Miami where Winslow won't be there. And so looking at these point guards, and outside of Corey Joseph, let's just forget about that for a second. But there's some top guys in here tonight. We got Kyrie Irving, we got Damian Lillard, and then we also have Trae Young. So of these top guys, with the highest projected ceilings, are you paying up tonight for point guard?
Almost certainly not. Some of these guys are great. They have huge ceilings. I think Lillard, of your A options that you're talking about there, certainly the best matchup of them. And I think most likely to hit some sort of supernumerary statistical upside that would make it worth. But man, some of these centers are just too the hell cheap. Andre Drummond is pretty demonstrably the best play on the slate. Before amortized became my word, demonstrably was my word. But Andre Drummond is gross. I'm a giant fan of the matchup, and there's no Blake, and there's no Reggie, and no Derek, and I'm daddy-like, very, very much so. I think he is the second highest owned player at exactly half of the last time I looked at ownership. We literally had Corey Joseph exactly double owned the next player, and it's Andre Drummond, and it's literally 51.6% to 25.8% right now.
Yeah.
Bruce Brown is in, which is a bit of a boost for the overall efficiency, though that's going to come out in the wash. That takes Tim Frazier not entirely out of play, but it means he's going to play 21 minutes instead of 30. He's still 3K flat. You can get to some Tim Frazier. Langston Galloway, both minutes and usage come down a little bit. Luke Kennard, whose prices come up, minutes and usage come down a little bit. So none of those guys are that exciting, but none of that stops Andre Drummond from getting done everything he needs to. Again, there's some jazz about the team playing not getting in till late this morning. Yeah, that's not good, but Andre Drummond's in really good shape. He only played, I want to say 29 minutes in the game last night. They are on the back end of a back-to-back. So I have, that's not great, but they don't have any choice. And he's been just great on back-to-backs this year, last year, the year before. I have no issue with him. I currently have him as the number 2 scoring player on the slate. I'm a massive Andre Drummond fan. He's 25.8% owned. I would double that, if not triple it.
So Andre Drummond on FanDuel is 10-4. On DraftKings, he is 8,900. So I guess on DraftKings, definitely more appealing than he is on FanDuel, because Jokic is someone who's priced a little bit more down on FanDuel. And then he's at 9K. So when it comes to FanDuel pricing, are you as high as on Drummond as you are DraftKings?
No, I mean, not as on DraftKings, obviously. Okay. Now, I expect the ownership not on DraftKings. He is the second highest owned player. And I think we had an update. I assume that's an update. Let me just refresh this.
Yeah, he's 29.5 on DraftKings right now.
He boosted on DraftKings.
22.8 on FanDuel. So he's the highest owned center on FanDuel as well.
Right. And let me take a look at the FanDuel center pricing.
Joseph is 62% on FanDuel.
I mean, FanDuel makes more sense, but none. Like, I would literally play 0 in GPPs. I would just ride or die with. There's just other cheap. Let me look at point guard on FanDuel and list the point guards who cost $5,000 or less, who I would rather play over Corey Joseph. There's going to be like 6, I have a feeling, but let's take a look. And this sounds like I hate him. Again, I'm projected for 24 fantasy points. That's very good for $3,700. You can just go ahead and load him in your cash lineup. I also want to say that there is a non-zero chance that they start Yogi Ferrell. They like Yogi Ferrell. Yogi Ferrell is a better basketball player. If Yogi Ferrell starts, by all means, windmill slam that crap on DraftKings. He's very playable right now. I'd rather play him over Tim Frazier in any format. Right now, he's also the 3K flat minimum, and he's just a better fantasy basketball player by any stretch. Corey Joseph is a better defender. There's a lot of stuff there. But from fantasy purposes, you want Yogi in there. It is not unheard of for coaches, including Walton, who has done this in the past, to just go, I'm going to keep the second unit the same. And Yogi Ferrell, who has played 48 minutes in a basketball game before, by the way, could get the start and randomly play 31 minutes in the spot. I wouldn't be shocked whatsoever. I'd have interest in him in tournaments, even on FanDuel right now. Matchup's a good one. Super cheap. Ownership's low. But there's any number of ways Kojo doesn't get there. So
if not Kojo, and I think this is what people are wondering, is you look at these guards, and there's Langston Galloway at 4, Chris Dunn at 3,900. You also have maybe someone to consider in maybe Emmanuel Mudiay. There's a couple guys maybe a little bit higher priced than Aaron Holiday or Nunn. Trey Burke is out, so maybe Raul Neto in a role. I mean, not really, but I think anyone else that maybe someone would look at.
You could cut my leg off before I spent $1 on Raul Neto in this spot. I mean, like it's Cleveland. That's not. It's also worth pointing out that they're on a back-to-back as well. They play again tomorrow. So yeah. I think Philly, I like a lot of the Philly players a lot. You can look at my rankings, which are they free yet? Did we get there?
We almost did. We're at 1.3 something right now.
It's 1.5 you're asking for? Well, you guys should get that going. You're going to run out of time.
Well, I mean, listen, I can only do so much. So, I mean, they know about it. If they want your rankings for free, all we need is 200 more likes. So for those of you who joined us, if you want to get Fast Eddie Fear's rankings for free, you can go ahead and hit that like button. If we get to 1.5K, we're going to go ahead and release them, guys. So,
and I'll take 20 seconds and talk about the rankings. They do two things. One, they give you my rankings on guys in cash and GPP and how much I like them respectively in those two formats. But two, it also functions as a player pool. I have them out 90 minutes before lock and revise them repeatedly as the day goes on, all day, every day. But they're also the list of players I would have at least a share of in a GPP. So it's a player pool. And so I'll pick these guys, and it's pulled directly from the DraftKings format, so you can use it very easily. All the names match up and stuff for doing that there.
Someone I wanted to mention real quick on that point guard position outside Corey Joseph, I think is someone more appealing. Might be either Kobe White or I really like Anthony Simmons tonight at 4,200 on FanDuel. So could you talk about those two guys real quick?
Sure. I would rather play if he's going to be 60% owned, which by the way that's our tournament ownership, which is absurd. I do not have him I have him projected less than Kobe White. Now he's $500 more on FanDuel. He's like, and he's $400 or $500 more on DraftKings. So, okay, points per dollar, I would still have Kojo a little bit higher. So yeah, Kobe, I'll just do name list real quick. I would still play him over Darius Garland, but that would be close. But Kendrick Nunn would much rather get in there. I want to make sure I have all the Miami Heat news because it did not all file in the way I thought. Yeah, Tyler Hero is out, who basically had been splitting 48 with Kendrick Nunn the whole time. I have Kendrick Nunn for 33 minutes now then.
I like Kendrick Nunn tonight. Kendrick Nunn is
$5,000. So, okay, that's obviously well more than Corey Joseph, but I just said 5,000 less. So I'd rather play Kendrick Nunn. I'm not going to say TJ McConnell, but at their ownerships, I would rather play TJ McConnell at their ownerships, but like I can't endorse that play. Anthony Simmons is getting all kinds of run. That matchup is as good as it gets. Anthony Simmons, Yogi Ferrell, Kobe White, Aaron Holiday, who's 41, could be drawing thin now. You could talk me into Monty Morris because Malik Beasley is going to rest, and that can turn into a couple extra minutes for him. Tim Frazier, certainly. And then Ferrell. So there's like 7 guys who are cheap point guards who I would rather run than a 60% owned non-fantasy producing kind of guy. And even if you look at the Kings, depending on the site, Corey Joseph, barely comes in as like my 4th or 5th best king to put in a tournament. I really like playing, especially on FanDuel, Bogdan Bogdanovic. That's great on DK too. I really like playing Buddy Hield. I certainly don't mind playing Rashawn Holmes. Again, he's going to be fairly popular. Not Corey Joseph popular. And there's other places, other power forwards I'm kind of interested in pivoting to. but by any points production, get there.
I think that's a great call on Bogdanovich and Hield, and they also don't hurt one another because they do close out games together, and they are on the floor together as well. So if you're looking for that correlation and you're thinking that one of them comes in and then the other one goes out, that's not necessarily the case. They're both on the court together.
Yeah, which is in some ways good and in some ways bad, but you know, there are lineup formats in which, you know, Kojo ends up Corey Joseph. There's that without injury, without foul trouble, and he's very good at not getting in foul trouble. But there's, you know, like a 10% chance he plays 20 minutes anyway. Like they can just run point Bogdan. They can just, you know, start Yogi Ferrell. So there's just 60% is an absurdity to me. Like anyway, that's way more time than that play deserves.
Let's talk about the high guys, because I'm curious to hear your thoughts on a few that seem to be showing up as far as their rating today. Chris Paul, 6,600 on FanDuel. And also I want to talk about Ben Simmons because he's in a great matchup. He's priced appropriately. Maybe the ownership stays down.
He's priced way too good on DraftKings. And he's still, I think he's 8K on FanDuel. I'm gonna double check.
Yeah, he's 8K on FanDuel.
That's cheap. That is too cheap for a guy in this matchup. I don't think we have our 76ers starting lineup yet. I imagine they start Furkan and move everyone down, but they could start Matisse. They could go a couple ways. We don't have that lineup yet, so I'm a little bit interested how that goes.
Do you think he'll get a full maybe 30? How many minutes do you have him projected for Simmons?
Yeah, I have to. Now, again, it is the front end of a back-to-back. By the way, you should be very confident in Ben Simmons. Okay, I almost ranked him a C in cash due to the injury, due to the bag. I ranked him a B in cash because he is well too cheap. He should cost 9K on FanDuel and 8,200 on DK or something, even relative to the other absurdly underpriced people. I have him projected for a touch over 40 fantasy points. He costs 7-4 or what have you. He's point guard, small forward, I think, still. So he fills 5 of the 8 positions in your lineup. But yeah, the matchup with Cleveland is a very good one. They play slow, but they don't play any of that. Their defense. And Ben Simmons didn't get moved from like questionable probably. He got moved to questionable to in. And they're playing Cleveland, so they're not going to bring him out unless he's 100%. You don't risk Ben Simmons' health if you're Philadelphia for the Cleveland game that you're going to win anyway. So he's good. They thought it would be a few games, so it feels weird to say this, but you know, he's got the mark of Cain on him with the whole Q tag or whatever, so his ownership is going to be well reduced. You're getting $7,400 Ben Simmons against a woeful defense with no one on it who can guard him reasonably. I don't know what his ownership is currently saying. I have a feeling it's like 3%, and that's just ridiculous. I love Ben Simmons. It's tough to get to him because there are just so many brilliantly priced players, especially it's easier on FanDuel where point guard, there's obviously some very good point guards, like double spend up at point guard on FanDuel and give you a really unique lineup. If you have Damian Lillard and Ben Simmons, that's 0.5% of lineups right there. And it's not like either of those guys are bad plays whatsoever. Just stream of consciousness-ing here and just talking for a minute.
No, I really think also, I think Trae Young, even though it's a tough matchup, I feel like this is in play because of how low the ownership is. And I mean, right now, currently, he's the second highest usage for tonight of any point guard. And, you know, for me, what I have him at is the highest projected ceiling point guard as well. And he's in the single digit percentile when it comes to ownership. And so, I mean, that game could go into a shootout, you know, with the Nuggets. I mean, there's no doubt, but with Collins still off the floor, I mean, he's the main guy. And I mean, he's going to take a bunch of shots. He's going to get up a lot of assists. And it seems like no one's willing to still pay that, I guess, 9,600 for him. But I feel based on what we've seen of him, I feel like 9,600 on FanDuel is okay. I
think it's just fine at the ownership. Let me say a couple things. One, I do think the matchup is very relevant. In Denver is very relevant. He played the Nuggets twice last year and was legit bad. And he was a revelation last year. Like, I like Trae Young, and I was, you know, he's no Luka. Like, people need to slow, but he's really good. And he was much better than I thought he would be. Like, Luka, I thought would be a god, and Luka's a god. I thought he was going to be vastly better than Trae Young. Trae Young made that a conversation. He was dreadful in 2 games against the Nuggets. I don't have the stats, but I remember watching these games and going, wow, they handle him. That's an example, by the way. He gets guarded quite frequently by Gary Harris and not Jamal Murray.
Yeah.
Gary Harris being their best defender. And certainly if you can shut down Trae Young, you're looking very good against this team. Now, I will also say, just throwing out data here. So, like, I'm fine with Trae Young. He has low ownership. There is a massive ceiling. Trae Young has played. I'm top of my heading all this, so forgive me if I get this a little bit wrong. I believe he has played 8 games this year and played. I think he has had 58 or more DraftKings points in 5 of them, and those 5 included one against Orlando, which is not a great matchup. One against San Antonio, which is not a great matchup. One against Detroit, which is not a particularly great matchup. So, like, yeah, dude can get work done. If you're going to run out there. Now, I would personally have him, assuming the prices are roughly even, lower than both Irving and Lillard. Lillard's matchup is legitimately very, very good. Kyrie and Trae are very similar players tonight, in that they are guys who can take a dominating amount of usage. And I've been very pro Kyrie from the beginning of this year, where he was $2,000 too cheap. They've finally repaired that. But both Kyrie and Trae have very similar situations. Guys who can throw out 45% usage in the fourth quarter, both playing at elevation, which is relevant from a minutes projection. From you would change it by 30 seconds because of that. Both on the road. Those are very similar plays, and I have those two guys very close. I have Trae Young slightly under Kyrie. I have them both well under Lillard. So that changes site to site which you pick there. But yeah, Trae Young can get out there and do stuff. I would also take a little bit of issue with the John Collins being out thing. I think that will actually slightly, if I had to guess, lower Trae Young's usage. I think Jabari Parker will less facilitate Trae Young going off and doing completely ridiculous things than having John Collins out there. Actually, John Collins a little bit more willing to defer, a little bit more ingrained in the offense, move the ball a little bit better. I need a few more games to see, but if you put a gun to my head right now and say, is having John Collins out good for Trae Young, I would actually say it's slightly bad, but doesn't matter. But just as a piece of information there. And I should also mention, I don't think Jabari Parker's out of play. Like, you look at the last slate, Sunday and Monday were 2 very nice days at Awesemo.com. We had a ton of winners both days. Sunday night in the Slack was a great time. And your top 2 players on that juicy Sunday slate were Trae Young and Jabari Parker, were the 2 highest scoring players. Jabari Parker's price has moved up pretty significantly, but he's still dollar per dollar cheaper, especially on FanDuel. FanDuel, Jabari Parker's $7,200 still. Nobody's going to go there. I don't know if his owners are projected at. That number is not out of play for me. I have a feeling we haven't projected. I'm going to guess Jabari Parker, we have it 8% on FanDuel. Throw that out there. You got to tell me if I'm right. And I would get 15 or something. Like, there's a real chance that he just gets out there and does tons of usage. Damian Jones ain't going to go and take a million shots. Kevin Huerter will take a couple. DeAndre Hunter is more than happy to give it up. So you're looking at a scenario where you could get, even in a slow game against a Denver team where the defense is very good and they play slow, you could still see 25 shots out of Jabari Parker and Trae Young, and that gives them value.
By the way, we hit 1.5 likes, so
open it up.
Open up Eddie's rankings to everyone. Congratulations, guys.
Kraken.
You spoke on Jabari Parker. What about the other forwards here? Because we got Tabonte Sabonis, who's pretty much in what's looking like a good matchup as far as what we're seeing here. Let's also talk about let's focus on DraftKings first. But you got Love, you got Harris, and then I guess you already spoke on Jabari Parker, but any of these guys that have of interest to you?
So Tobias Harris, I like a lot. It's going to play more down at the 4. That means more rebounds. I still don't think we have a 76ers lineup. I'm looking, maybe. So I really want to know who starts there. It'd be a little bit. Furkan Korkmaz will start. That's what I thought was going to happen. Would have been a little bit better for Harris if Matisse Thybulle had started. But I like Harris quite a bit. I like him more on FanDuel. Small forward sticky on FanDuel. But I think Harris is fine. Certainly not a must at any point here. So you're asking about the forward specifically, not there. I think Harris is fine.
You got Davis, you got James. I mean, Tobias Harris. Yeah, I mean, any of these guys.
I got so much stuff to say about so many of these guys. So much to do, so little time. Okay. Here we go on a nutshell. Tobias Harris is fine. Feel free to get him in your lineups. Not a priority for me. I think this could be a very good spot for Lauri Markkanen. Knicks, terrible, blah, blah, blah. Very obvious stuff. But the injury to Cristiano Felicio, much like the injury to Ed Davis, It changes around the rotations enough that you suddenly get Rudy Gobert playing 4 or 5 extra minutes, and you get Lauri Markkanen playing 4 or 5 extra minutes. The underlying rates, I think there's a very real chance he drops 40 plus tonight. That DK price especially is really cheap. I like Lauri Markkanen. I like Markieff Morris at $4,100. Before I forget to say that again, he can put up 50 fantasy points, and that I'm gonna go ahead and say that's never happened in Corey Joseph's career. I'm gonna go ahead and say Corey Joseph, and he has gotten many a fill-in start, and I have recommended Corey Joseph with glowing praise many times in the past. This just is not that day. So let's see. Other guys who are talking about that forward position. Kevin Love, if they're gonna make this some sort of game, it is gonna be on his back. Having Al Horford out of there helps. Yeah, defensively they're gonna have some issues there. So I like Kevin Love in tournaments. Don't love him, but I ranked him as an A in tournaments. I do think there is a chance of him putting up a very significant game in a bad matchup. He can again get infinite rebounds. I would slightly rather in a tournament pay for him than Tobias Harris on DK. And Kevin Love also a little too cheap on FanDuel. I think he's like 8.2 on DK, 8.5 on FanDuel. That's proportionally cheaper on FanDuel. Other things from this game. Joel Embiid at $9,400 is egregiously underpriced. He is less egregiously underpriced than both Nikola Jokic and Andre Drummond. With Simmons in, which isn't the biggest impactor for him, but it does pull the ceiling down a little bit. It does, in my opinion, reduce the chance of getting 90 out of Embiid, which, you're a Tobias Harris ankle turn from that just being like, oh my God, Embiid is taking, 12 shots a quarter. Bringing Simmons in there, I'm a little less excited. I do have him pretty clearly number 3 among those guys on DK, and I do think they are 3 of the best players on the slate at their prices. So I'm a big fan of getting to Drummond and Jokic as building blocks to start a lineup. Now, there are a lot of incredibly good price center plays. I know you asked about forwards, but again, I'm just sort of rambling and streaming all over the place here.
What do you think? What do you think about? I think Bobby Portis is in a great spot tonight. And so I would love to hear your thoughts on him.
Yeah. All right. So, yes. Where to go here? It's all ownership dependent here. I'm assuming he's somewhere in like the teens. And yeah, I'd probably want to get on top of that because I do think there's a ginormous ceiling. We just saw the ginormous ceiling again when these teams played each other 2 weeks ago, and he's got a thing for Chicago. He doesn't, like the way he got dealt with. It's not like he punched somebody in the face. Wait, he did punch somebody in the face, but that's a whole nother story. But
he's less than 3% on both sites.
I love him then. Like I love Bobby Portis. Like he just put up 50. Like I don't need to. Like there's an issue with the fact that like I love a lot of guys today. I would be fading a lot of heavily owned guys. I can't get away from Drummond, but I would come in under. I bet on like 7 of the top 10 guys because there's so many guys who are not going to be heavily owned who I think have massive upside. Lauri Markkanen, Markieff Morris, Kobe White, Bobby Portis, Hassan Whiteside, assuming he gets in there and plays. Bam Adebayo, I don't know what his number is at. I want to take a second and go. Wendell Carter Jr., who, by the way, if you go back and look at that game from a couple weeks ago, again, it's a 1-game sample. This shouldn't be like, this is what they did. This is what they're going to do again. But it shows that it's, fairly easily possible. Okay. So in that game, you got, I'm pretty sure, monster games out of Wendell Carter Jr., RJ Barrett, and Bobby Portis, at the very least, ginormous salary crushing games. I'm actually I have that section pull up database. I don't have the fantasy points, but I have where's there to go? Wendell Carter Jr. in that game had 20 points, 10 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, and 3 blocks. That pays off 5,900 pretty well. What are the other ones? RJ Barrett, I thought. Yeah, 19 points, 15 rebounds, 5 assists, and a block. Yeah, that's going to pay off his $5,900 pretty well. And what was the other one I pulled out of my butt there? That was also the 8 turnover Julius Randle game. I don't think that happens again. He's just fine to run out there. But Kobe White, by the way, was crap in that game. Looks like about 12 fantasy points. Only played 16 minutes. Now that was actually the last game, that was like his best shooting game in a while. People mentioned to me, a couple people in chat, I don't have the names handy or I would give them credit, were like, Kobe White. Adam said something about Kobe White and he was concerned about him, and I'm sure whatever he said was correct. Adam's a very clever guy. I'm sure his observation. But I think it also needs to be pointed out that however you diminish him, A, he's cheap as hell. B, he's playing the Knicks. And C, he is shooting like hot garbage. Now, he's a rookie in the NBA. You're going to shoot like hot garbage. But he's shooting 30% from the field. I think he's made 6 of his last 40 from 3. And he's in there in a blowout, and they are pushing his minutes. It was something about the minutes that Adam said. I had him at 26. Adam, I think, said he reduced him to 24. I did not watch the show. That's what someone said. And that sounds reasonable. But I'm finally fine with 24 against the Knicks at $4,100 or what have you. Here's his from the field last X games. 4 for 16, 3 for 13, 7 for 15. That one's not bad. 0 for 6. So 3 of the last 4 games, sub 25% from the field, or one of them is exactly 25% from the field. 3-pointers made and attempted 0 for 6, 1 for 7, 1 for 5, 0 for 2, 1 for 6, 2 for 7, 1 for 3, 0 for 4. If you exclude the first 2 games of the season, so the 7 games since then, he's shooting, I think that's 6 for 40. That number will come up. And dude, cheap as hell. And, they are finally doing a better job with the minutes for that team, where you're seeing a little more time for Laurie. Again, they're forced into that with the Cristiano injury and a couple other things. But, so there's a whole spiel on a number of things. You mentioned the Lakers. Let me talk about the Lakers for a second. This is finally the Lakers' first back-to-back of the season. So, on DraftKings, I ranked both Anthony Davis and LeBron James double A's. I can't get away from it because they are going to play. The matchup is still great against Phoenix. It's a much better Phoenix team. Shout out Monty Williams, doing a great job with the team. I'm very impressed with what you've done. They're still way too cheap. Many of the super studs, they carry with them a very good floor. So at 10, 10.5, those guys who have pretty safe, 45-point floors are just great plays. I can't get away from that. That being said, Kuzma is back and is going to take some minutes and have some decent usage. Rondo is probably going to play. He's going to lower LeBron's upside a little bit. They're on their first back-to-back of the season in very easy matchups. I believe it is the Suns tonight and the Warriors tomorrow. I'm not surprised to see blowouts or just minutes limited a little bit here, usage limited a little bit because there's Rondo. So they just don't, points per dollar, compare for me to Andre Drummond or Nikola Jokic, or any number of mid-price guys who I think carry massive upsides. There's a lot of guys tonight who cost, Bobby Portis, Wendell Carter Jr., who can give me 45 for $6K. So when I'm playing Anthony Davis or LeBron as the most expensive players on the slate, and again, on FanDuel, their numbers are even less proportionately appealing. I want it to be nights where they can realistically give me 90. And can I get 90 out of LeBron? Of course I get 90 out of LeBron. The guy's looked tremendous. He's got a chip on his shoulder. Can you get 90 out of Anthony Davis? You can get 90 out of Anthony Davis against the Monstars. The guy is absolutely incredible. But there are several factors working against them tonight, and a tier of players who cost $1,000 or $2,000 less who can give me 60 or 70. So I'm going to fade the chances of them giving me the massive James Harden 97.5-point game or what have you, and look other places more often than not. I would, of course, be exposed to Anthony Davis and LeBron James, but they would not be priorities for me.
How do we feel about Joker? We haven't really mentioned him unless it was just a little bit back in the beginning of the show. But this center position, we spoke on Drummond. You said Embiid is priced egregiously nowhere where he should be.
Yeah.
But then we have Joker.
Not as bad as Jokic. Yeah. Jokic and Drummond are now the best two for me. If Simmons had been out, again, speaking about when you put money in a GPP tournament, turning a half-hour conversation into a 20-second one because we have no time, you need to give yourself a good chance of winning first. And if there's 67,000 entries, you need to hunt guys doing obscene things. So I want guys who are going to give me absolutely absurd games, and having Ben Simmons in there, and the matchup, which is actually not that great with the pace. And Tristan Thompson, again, I don't have this in front of me and I'm not going to take the time to look again, has done a pretty good job against Embiid. If you look at time on the court Joel Embiid has spent against Tristan Thompson versus time on the court Joel Embiid has spent in general, I'm sure it is a worse than average production spot for him. Now, I don't give a crap. It's Joel Embiid. He is a god. The guy is amazing. He's one of my top 3 favorite Cameroonians in the NBA. But I want the spot where he can give me 80, 85. You told me Ben Simmons was out. There's a number more ways that can happen now. I find that a little bit less likely. I'll save a little money and I'll play 500 less for Drummond, or I think it's 1,100 less for Jokic on DK, and on FanDuel, Jokic is 1,400 cheaper than either of the other two in an Atlanta matchup, which the ceiling is certainly there. Like, there are games you can get 75 out of Jokic. He's not really a 100 kind of guy, but this is certainly that spot. And he's not quite as egregiously priced as Drummond, site dependent, but yeah, that's just I mean, Damian Jones is going to start. Good luck. I watched Damian Jones, and the Warriors tried to guard him a couple of times. That didn't work out so good. He's going to get anything he wants. So, he might just, turtle into his shell the way Jokic does sometimes. And this might be one of those nights where, like, wow, Jokic has made every shot he's taken tonight. All three of them. Like, that could happen. But just as far as a points per dollar thing, I have Drummond and Jokic a good amount ahead now of Embiid. That doesn't mean don't play Embiid. I would have some Embiid. Joel Embiid at $9,400 is an absurdity, and that's why Anthony Davis and LeBron at 10 and 10.5, they're not quite as absurd. But yeah,
where do you rank the three for DraftKings if you had to, between Embiid, Jokic, and Drummond in order?
Drummond by a mile, then Jokic. Then a pretty significant drop-off at this point for Embiid. Now, I expect the ownership to reflect that, and that obviously changes all things. So let me, take a look at that and we'll just say it for old time's sake, amortize that information into the whole factor here. But let me take a look at some things. Do that. We're 9 minutes out, so I'm not going to push another ratings update. Gibson is starting. So for your Bobby Portis shares, that's mildly concerning. You would rather have Portis starting.
I prefer Portis coming off the bench and facing the second unit.
Sure, and the second unit now is Lauri Markkanen at center, which is mildly worse for him than Cristiano Felicio at center. But you're looking at a higher usage share, but the minutes are slightly imperiled now. If Portis starts, Portis probably plays 30 minutes. Like, if you told me Portis starts, I'm going to say, okay, there's probably a 80% chance Portis plays 30 minutes. Now he's coming off the bench. I would reduce that number to 50%. Like, it is a real threat to his minutes for me. So more of a GPP play. I still love it, especially on DraftKings, where people are going to jump all over the high price guys.
Taj Gibson started the last two games. However, though, Portis 28 minutes, 24 minutes, but both exceeded value each time with 31 and 32 points respectively.
Taj Gibson. The last game, Taj Gibson only played at the 4 in the first Bulls game. Mitch started, played 18 minutes, and Portis played 30 off the bench in that game, if I recall. So there's that it certainly could still happen. Don't misunderstand me. But I do think it's a legitimate threat to the minutes there. Let me see if there's any other stuff I want to speak on here. So again, Markieff, FanDuel, small forward. That makes it very nice. DK, $4,100. Short version of that story is just someone has to take shots for this team. Okay, like Kennard is still very much in play at well more money, and I have him ranked pretty similar to Markieff. So big fan of Markieff. Big fan of Buddy Hield. Trying to think other players. Big fan of Malcolm Brogdon. Again, a little concerned about the minutes. That tilted me. He was going to double-double, if not triple-double in that last game, and then the minutes came down.
What about Luke Kennard? There's a lot of people talking about him, and
sure.
With Derrick Rose obviously off the floor, I think it improves Kennard to some extent, because you see Kennard kind of play a majority of the first quarter, then he comes back in late in the first quarter and he's playing with the second unit, and he seems to be getting a majority of his shot volume in that second unit. So what are your thoughts on Kennard here? I guess for both sides, you can go ahead and break it down.
Yeah, I like Kennard just fine. They have more able defenders to handle him than, say, Drummond or somebody, or even Markieff, who is going to get some time with Olynyk. And there's no Derrick Jones Jr., which is actually good for him. No James Johnson, which is actually good for him. So like I enjoy the Olynyk Myers Leonard matchups for him a little bit more there. But Kennard it's just that there's a lot of guys I rank very similarly to Kennard who cost $1,500 less. So you can get 45, 50 fantasy points out of Kennard in this game environment. So I'm absolutely fine spending $6K on him, but he's not a priority. He's not going to make it in my first lineup. I still think he's really good and all the spot is there. So I'm just going to talk on a lot of guys really quick. I assume they will start DeAndre Jordan tonight. Rudy Gobert will eat Jared Allen's breakfast again, if given the opportunity to do so. I don't really want to play either of those guys, but I would play DeAndre Jordan before I play Jared Allen tonight, because I've watched Jared Allen play Rudy Gobert before, and I watched it so you don't have to. Save yourself. Wendell Carter Jr. is actually 5,600 on DK. Got that wrong. I said 59. He's 56. That's really cheap, and again had 40 some odd fantasy points in this matchup a couple of weeks ago. It is a brilliant spot. Not having Mitch there reduces a lot of the downside. I really like Wendell Carter Jr. He almost got double A's. He got a B and an A. He almost got double A's. Just sort of streaming through players here. Talked about that.
What about Embiid's minutes? Because we haven't seen him get basically more than 33 minutes majority of this season. However, though, tonight's a little bit of a different matchup because of their front court. You got two big men in Thompson and Love who will play a heavy amount of minutes. So could we see an uptick in minutes for Embiid? And could this also increase the value of him being kind of fairly priced on DraftKings at 9,400?
Sure. If the game was close, I would expect him to play 33 or 34 minutes. I'm not sure the game is going to stay close, and sometimes it's foul trouble, but he plays, 33 minutes in a close game. Like, there's been foul trouble, there's been blowout, there's been so that's still less minutes than I expect both Jokic and Drummond to play. So just other guys I want to touch on real quick who I may not have mentioned. Y'all should stop playing Jakar Sampson. He's fine, but there's just, for tournaments, there's just better places to go than popular guy who has no upside. By the way, Jakar Sampson, Damian Jones, Corey Joseph, all like 0.7, 0.75 fantasy point per minute guys in their career. That shouldn't shock you, but I would rather play so many guys over them in GPPs who are going to be 2% owned and project really similarly. See rankings. Another shout out for Kendrick Nunn. All the guys out, you can play Duncan Robinson. That should be mentioned again. RJ Barrett at $5,900 is the other one. Speaking of, I slightly prefer Bobby Portis at $5,500, but I like trying to get one of those guys into my lineup. I'd be really surprised if one of them didn't have a good game. Turd Ferguson will be out for the evening. Hamidou Diallo is in play because of that fact. I think he pretty safely is going to get in the high 20s and minutes, might get over 30. Not a great matchup, but worth mentioning. The Suns are the Suns. There's no reason to take a different take really than we ever do here. I still really like CJ McCollum. Both he and Damian Lillard got their double A's. Hassan Whiteside is going to be way under owned for the kind of upside he has in this spot. People are talking about Bam Adebayo. I would much rather play Hassan Whiteside in a tournament. There's just a juicy upside. And again, by the way, 34 and 35 minutes for Hassan Whiteside each of the last two games. 3 games ago against Atlanta, I said I think he gets over 30 minutes tonight. He didn't get that night, but he's gotten both games since then. Obviously, they're minus many centers. That was the game where I thought he was going to screw us all, and then he had 40 fantasy points in the second half to turn out great and be the best center. So, there's a Hassan Whiteside is. I would take the over on him having 60 fantasy points at some point in the next 10 days. Talked about it. Rudy Gobert, again, should be mentioned that they don't have a backup center they're comfortable putting out there for long. Tony Bradley, Summer League special, but really juicy spot for him. And at 7,500, another guy in that Hassan Whiteside. If I'm going away from he's great. He's not as good as $8,900 Andre Drummond, but I would cycle in some of that guy as well. I think I'm done.
Rashawn Holmes. What's your take on him? Because he's 5,400 on DraftKings, and he's going to be facing kind of a soft front court of the Trailblazers. So what's your take on Rashawn Holmes, and what's your grade for him?
Don't let Hassan Whiteside hear you call him soft. My grades for him were A and A. He's just too cheap, $5,400. He's going to be fairly popular in one lineup. He's a guy I would get away from. I would rather play his identically priced and also forward eligible teammate Bogdan Bogdanovic if I had to pick between the two of them. I like me some Rashawn Holmes. I am probably playing 31 minutes or so and scoring a similar number of fantasy points. He's very good.
With no Hero and no Winslow, how do we feel about Jimmy Butler?
A little bit better, more of a ceiling. Again, it's just everyone is priced so well. I think I have him at a B and an A, but the minutes feel more secure. I think he probably get 36 now. The FanDuel price is still now very much in play. None my biggest beneficiary, then Dragic, then, but by all means, get yourself some Jimmy Buttles.
All right. We got about 1 minute and 45 seconds to lock. Some people we probably didn't talk about. Brogdon. Any love for Brogdon?
Yes, quite a bit of love for Brogdon. Talked about him a bit before. $7,600. Yeah, very much like he just projects better than that. He's had one decent shooting game out of his last 4. Every game that you have no Lamb, no Miles Turner, and you're filling it in with the dregs of Jakar Sampson, who got a BC, by the way, and cash higher than GPP is sort of a rare thing. But no, I mean, I really like Brogdon. I really like Sabonis. I don't really like anyone else on this team.
Someone asked Tobias Harris or Buddy Hield?
Buddy Hield.
Jabari Parker or Ben Simmons at the small forward position on DraftKings?
Oh, that's juicy. Ben Simmons for cash. I would play Jabari Parker in the tournament.
Julius Randle or Tobias Harris?
Julius Randle.
All right, and then we have one at the guard position. Matthew Brogdon or Ben Simmons?
Who's Matthew Brogdon? Malcolm Brogdon easily.
Sorry,
I would look at their ownership projection. I expect Brogdon to be well higher. I really like Brogdon as a play, but I would probably play Simmons because I think you're looking at. I haven't looked at our ownership, but I'm guessing you have Brogdon in the mid to high teens, and you're going to have Ben Simmons at 6%. So I'll go Ben Simmons.
Someone wrote Matthew Brogdon. I'm like, I was thinking the same thing.
Matthew Broderick, he was so good in War Games.
I guess anyone else here? Goran Dragic, 5,600, and yeah, okay.
I prefer Kendrick Nunn at 4,700. I haven't projected almost identically.
Whiteside or Gobert?
Gobert raw points, Whiteside at price.
Okay. And I think we're locked now.
Whew. Not enough time. I think we got to change the schedule. I think we got to put the deeper dive on from 1 to 2. Then we're going to do live before lock from 2 to 7. And then I get like
2 to 7.
It's a joke, but I'm just like I have let me look at my notes for today. 21 and a half pages. I talked about 4/10 of it. Like I have a half a paragraph here on channel.
Well, we also started late.
We did start late.
And then we got 2 different sets of questions coming in on 2 different platforms. So sometimes people wonder why we're repeating the same thing or wondering why we're asking about the same person. Well, it's people who probably come in late and they want to ask. And so we want to go ahead and help them. So, I mean, if someone asks and they weren't in there, I'm going to go ahead and repeat the question.
Yeah. So Sunday was good. We had, my favorite thing is when someone is like, I didn't do anything but look at the rankings and then I just crunched them and I won $10,000. That's about my favorite thing. That's happened already, I think 3 or 4 times this year. So I work pretty hard on the rankings. It's my hair. I work hard on my hair. No one's going to get that reference. 40-year-old movie reference for all you kids. Yeah. But yeah, it's been really good. And then last night I was off, so that was better for everyone, and they proved it. I think Josh, and I don't recall who else was on the show with him before lock, but I saw people posting screenshots all the night long. So, get some of this action. It's fantastic. Someone
said thoughts on Hutchinson.
I'm bullish just for matchup. Like last game was sort of ceiling-y for him, but Porter being out obviously makes it a thing. I have him at 28 minutes against the Knicks. You can get 30 something out of him there. I prefer Kobe White. I prefer a few other 4K guys. I don't think he's super ceiling guy on that team where normally you're gonna have Zach and Laurie, and even in this matchup Wendell Carter doing a lot of heavy lifting. But I think he's just fine at 4K. He's not Corey Joseph, so that's a tick in his favor. I can't wait to see Corey Joseph's ownership because Corey Joseph is going to have his ceiling game of 37 fantasy points tonight and make me look horrible. The number of 10Xs I will see when that happens. Literally, my inbox, 10X, you're so dumb. And it's like, well, that's the tough thing because you're never like, I feel the same way when I'm wrong as when I'm right. It's like, yeah, I got lucky or I got unlucky because it's just you play this game 1,000 times and Corey Joseph is going to have this wide spectrum of fantasy production from 0 to whatever his actual ceiling would be, which is probably 1 game out of 1,000. You'd get like 45 fantasy points in this matchup, maybe 50. That could happen. That's the one where a sniper takes out Buddy Hield and Rashawn Holmes slips on a banana peel, but if he gets, if this is the one where he gets 41, that doesn't mean I was wrong. And if this is the one where he gets 12, that doesn't mean I was right. You never really know, which is a little frustrating. But
So we got a little bit of ownership.
Oh yes. What do we have just the Pacers game? I'm trying to think what we have at 7:00.
Yeah, we got OKC, Indiana.
Yeah, we have 2 games.
Yeah, we have 2 games right now. But and we got the Cleveland and Philly. But Love 2.2% and the $10. Brogdon 21.6%. Ben Simmons 6%.
I said 6%.
Yeah.
Vanna, send me down my car. On the nose. Nailed it, 6%.
Joel Embiid 19.5%.
Flip it.
Yeah.
19.5. That's I don't know. I like me some Joel Embiid, but this is not okay. Now I got to go look up my prognostication, my theory, my postulate that he has not played well against Tristan Thompson.
I like Ben Simmons at 6%.
Yes, I like Ben Simmons.
Really solid.
He's a good looking man. Let me find him. Mm-hmm. He's an Aussie. I'd like to take him down under. Okay, let's see. We have
people are saying that the site went down. Is that true?
The site has apparently gone down a couple times today, which, you know what it is. It's all the volume. We had whatever 3,000 people today on a Tuesday with my scrub ass in here. You get a couple of real hosts in there. I'm telling you, they could rock the top off this place. All right. I am looking at, I would have thought more, only 4 career games between Joel Embiid and Tristan Thompson. We have time now, so let's talk about them. The first game played back in Balmy 2016, literally 3 years ago last week. Joel Embiid, only 25 minutes. That's all they let him play back then. Smoke line, 22 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, 4 blocks. I do not offhand recall that game. 3 weeks after that, so I don't recall this game either, so this is not part of my recollection. Joel Embiid, 22-9 with 4 assists and 3 blocks in 25 minutes. So those not helping my theory. Let's see if it gets better after that. Tristan Thompson, fine in both games, by the way. 7-13 with 2 blocks, 12-12 with 2 blocks. In 2018, so at the end of the season before last, I did see this game. Joel Embiid, 17 points, 14 rebounds, 6 assists, no steals, 1 block in 34 minutes. That's a little below average for Joel Embiid. I think I described that appropriately. He's, generally like a 1.6 fantasy point per minute guy. That's like a 1.2er there. So good job there, Tristan. And then the last time they played, which was at the beginning of last year, Joel Embiid, 24 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, no steals, no blocks, 2 turnovers in 33 minutes. So that again, that's about 44 fantasy points in 33 minutes. That's like 1.3. So yeah, those are both below average. So I'm giving myself a pass for that. Those are both below average by Joel Embiid standard performances. And that combined with a slightly above average matchup for Jokic, and vastly above average matchup for Jokic and a just fine matchup for Drummond with all the other factors helping him, that, he comes in third for me. So it's surprising that he got up to 20%. I expected the public to follow my intuition. Well, not follow my intuition, but have the same intuition that I did. So I'll be interested if we see more Jokic and Drummond. You will get more Drummond. I don't know if you get more Jokic, but what's some other ownership?
Are you surprised with Sabonis being that high owned?
I don't know what he's owned.
He's 40.8% in the $10.
Sabonis is 40%.
40.8%. Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong. Dude has been a revelation. Lamb being, and again, you said Brogdon was. I am shocked that he was that high. I don't know what we had him projected at, but I have a feeling it was about half that, considering I know we had nobody over like 25 other than Corey Joseph. Yes, I would want less than that. Like, I like him a lot. I still like him less just projection than Jokic and Drummond and other guys who cost basically the same amount of money. So 40% is an enormous number in a really bad matchup. Now, he's produced in plenty of bad matchups, and I have him projected for 41 fantasy points, which is absolutely fine output for his 8K. But yes, I'd be more excited to play. We should have this number. Did they start? We do have this number. What's the number on Kevin Love?
He was low single digit.
Right. So, yes, I will take Kevin Love over Domantas Sabonis at 1/10 ownership because he will outscore him more than every 11th time. I don't know how frequently. I do have Sabonis projected a little bit higher, but I would have Kevin Love outscoring him every third time. So I will take Kevin Love at 1/11th the ownership or whatever it worked out at. So
listen to this. He's 85% in cash games. He's 73% in the $10 double up, and he's 58% in the $100 single entry.
He's great.
Wow.
He's great. He's fine in cash. I play him in cash over Kevin Love every day of the week. And twice on Sunday. That's fine. He's a very good play.
Wow.
But the matchup is legitimately a poor one. They're worse than average at pace, better than average at defense. Again, referring to the Thunder here. What do you have for Thunder ownership?
I haven't seen anyone. Let me see.
Well, you can download the thing on DraftKings. Let me see.
Yeah.
I'll see if I have access to if I can get the thing. All right, hold on. I gotta take a look there.
Checking now. Tobias is only 10% too. I really like that.
Yeah, I mean it's a really big slate. Like Tobias should be 10%, maybe 12, 14. That is around for every player there is, it's too massive a sample to ever be able to actually figure this number. But for every player, there is a percent they should be owned relative to the field. Tobias Harris should be owned 10%. Domantas Sabonis should be on 25% or 30%. He should be one of the 3 or 4 most popular plays on the slate. He's going to be the most popular. He may be the most popular player after Corey Joseph at this point, barring weird news or whatever. 41% on a slate with this many very good teams. And it's only an 8-gamer, but there's a lot of really quality players there. All right, I have downloaded the ownership here. 41 on Sabonis, 21 and change on Broggy Pants. That's about where that should be. Like, I like Sabonis a little more than Brogdon at their prices for tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have had, Brogdon 20, 21. That feels about right. Sabonis should have been like 25, 26. 41 is just, I think, higher than the point that ideal. What you have you there? Joel Embiid, 19%. Again, a little high for me just because of the presence of 2 other centers I like more, and plenty of GPP centers along the Portis, Whiteside, etc. line. Simmons, 7%. I'd want well more than that. TJ Warren, 6. That's fine. Furkan Korkmaz, 5.8. Yeah, that's about where that should be. That's about the right number. Tristan Thompson, 4%. I'd want a little more. Steven Adams, 3.3%. Steven Adams, $5,100. Like, I'd want more than that. We have not seen giant game, and you don't need giant game. He's $5,100. It is not 1 out of 6 games he will hit 40 fantasy points in this spot. That's a really nice score at that point. Now, it was hard for me to give him any kind of decent ranking today because he doesn't have giant ceiling, and there are multiple centers, at least 3 we've discussed many times, 4 if you count Whiteside, 5 if you count Portis, who have giant numbers. So it's really hard to be like, I'll take Steven Adams in my tournament lineup, where really the odds of me getting much more than, say, 40, really, really small. So it's hard to click that button, but 3%. Dennis Schroeder, 3%. That's a very small number. Hamidou Diallo, 2.6. Sure. Kevin Love, 2.2. So yes, Kevin Love is literally 1/18th, if I'm mathing that right in my head, about 1/18th as owned as Domantas Sabonis. I am going to go ahead and say that he outscores Domantas Sabonis more than 1 in every 19 times. Probably about 1 in 3. It may actually be a little better than that. So
someone asked, is it bad to play Levine with Laurie?
I would want to make sure that I'm running it back with somebody on the Knicks, but no, they're both players who are, Levine is 69, I want to say. That's a nice price, and 64 for Laurie. So if we're talking DK, which I imagine we are, but I'm not a huge fan of game stacking in larger slates. I will not go into my rant, nor will I go into my late swap ramp again. But if you were a casual player, if you don't watch your lineups every night, let me put it this way, if you play on DraftKings and FanDuel, and you complained a lot today or yesterday because of Brandon Ingram and, FanDuel doesn't have late swap, I hate that site. Ask yourself this question. How frequently do you late swap when none of your guys get hurt? So if you're playing on FanDuel and DraftKings and playing on both sites, as many people do, and you're on DraftKings and you make your lineup every night, and you basically, how frequently do you swap when no injuries are involved? If the answer to that is rarely or never, you should thank your lucky stars that there is no late swap on FanDuel, and you should be sad that there is on DraftKings, because you are getting screwed day after 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 day, and you just don't realize it. So I get it. I get how it feels bad. But basically, if you're casual and you're not following everything, snipers and hand grenades that randomly kill Brandon Ingram affect you at random. It does not cost you any money. Therefore, just random guys, just if there's a sniper in the stands and 1 guy out of 10 every game gets killed and does not play the game, you are as disadvantaged as everyone else. It's purely random. It actually does not cost you anything in the long term. However, every day that you have late swap available and aren't using it, you are getting your face kicked in by people who do. It is a significant advantage, and almost nobody uses it for all the things it should be doing, which is you have low-performing cash games, you take some risk to try to bring them up, and vice versa, and late news to swap this guy in and out. If you're not really using late swap every day, multiple times, and constantly monitoring your shit, you should be thrilled that it isn't available on FanDuel. And I get why you're complaining. It doesn't feel good. It's all the bad fields. It's in game design what we call an NPE. It's a negative play experience. But yeah, you don't know what you're complaining about. It's just I have a famous rant video. Well, I don't know about famous.
I mean,
but
people they want to complain every day. You know, they complain if you know they're not getting a question asked or answered. They're complaining if you know you said that Corey Joseph maybe you should be a little bit off him tonight in tournaments. Not necessarily a complete fade, but then he goes off tonight and then people just go nuts on you. It's just like,
I to a certain extent, I accept it and I welcome it. Like I think it is a great responsibility telling people what to do with their money. So if you listen to my advice and my advice steers you wrong and you lose money, I think you are entitled to gripe, and barring complete obscenity or bringing my family into it, I will hear you out. I have blocked like 7 people on Twitter. Usually when someone sends me a F you, where the hell did you learn about basketball, you dumbass? I retweet it because I think it's kind of funny, and I get it. I really have no issue with that. And I don't even have an issue with someone who says, I want late swap. Just know what you're asking for. You are asking to feel better about something with a placebo that is actually costing you money every other day. If you're cool with that, that's great. Not everyone has to play DFS to be super serious and grind every cent out of it. If you play DFS because, look, I like watching basketball anyway, and it's exciting, and I like watching the Man Candy on the shows leading up to lock. Tuesday's show, by the way, is officially now called Man Candy. We need that on the backdrop. Josh, let's get on that stat. This show is called Man Candy.
Oh, man. Nope. No, but in all seriousness, at the end of the day, it's like you bring people to the water, but, you don't force them to drink. Everyone, you should, at the end of the day, you're making your decisions. So for me, when I listen to everyone like Adam, Laffy, you, I take everyone's mindset and then I put them into my lineups and formulate them the way I want. But I don't hold like grudges, or I'm not resentful if I don't cash, because at the end of the day, like there are going to be days where you don't win, and then there are going to be days where you freaking smash the slate. So they balance out, and over time, it's all about getting better. So I guess everyone looks at it a little bit different.
Yeah, I generally am more on the side of the players on this one. I see people who are like, look, I'm just telling you what I know and you make the decision. It's like, yeah, but many places, including this one, we are charging you money to give you advice with the implicit understanding that we are going to help you. And I think we do over any reasonable sample size or time frame. But on a night where and specifically, like there are times where guys like, oh, I came in and I really wanted to play this guy, and Eddie talked him down and I took him out of all my lineups, and then he went off. Like Corey Joseph could score 40 tonight. I assume people who listen to the show will have less Corey Joseph than they would have if I had a different opinion. Corey Joseph goes off, puts up 40 points tonight. I will have cost people money, and that's obviously not my intention, but I understand someone being legitimately pissed about that. So I tend to land on their side. Like there are obviously things you can't say and things you can't do, but they're paying. If it's free, I would say screw yourself. You have no right to complain. So for people who are just sort of catching the YouTube stream, I'm a little less sympathetic. But for people in the premium Slack and people who spend money and are like, yeah, if I hadn't paid for your advice tonight, I would have done 37 points better. I'm sympathetic. Like I understand they have an expectation that things are going to work out well for them. Now you can't look at a one night sample size. That's preposterous. But I'm sympathetic, I guess, is where I come down. So and they should understand we're all doing the best we can. Like no one's, or at least I am. I do not fly by night this crap. one of these days I'm going to stop doing this. This may very well be my last year of doing this. Doing DFS makes me take a lot of other things out of my life that I really like, and I don't want to do it badly. So
man, the chat's going to go nuts right now for you just saying that.
I think this is probably my final year of doing DFS. This is probably my birthday is Friday.
Oh, really?
And I will turn.
Is that Sagittarius?
I will. I'm Scorpio. I'm a cusp Scorpio, baby, but I'm stinging you. My birthday is Friday. I'll be turning 43, and it's
nice, man. Happy birthday! If I don't talk to you then.
Thank you. It's probably my last year of basketball. Like, I love basketball, and I'll always watch it, but I'll probably stop playing sometime around this year. The recovery time is just brutal. Like, I just had too many surgeries and I love it. So like every time I walk into the gym, it's a thrill, and the squeak and the bounce, and I'm just seeing I'm going to miss it. So like, God damn, it hurts. Like it's at the point where if I play on Monday, on Tuesday, I'm either not getting my work done or taking some very heavy medication. And
so what surgery did you get?
Oh, we don't have time. Many. I mean, I played sports up through college, but
okay.
ACL one knee, ACL and MCL in the other knee. I had a compound fracture of my left leg. I dislocated a shoulder. Like I've had like almost every surgery. Just my body's beat up, which is fine. I played at a very high level until I was like 35. So I have no complaints. I had a very decent, but the recovery time is just brutal at this point. And I could play less, or I could join an old man's league, as people have suggested. Maybe I'll do that. I have a funny story. So like a year ago, I was having basically the same conversation. My wife goes, you should go play with this one of our neighbors lives across the street. He plays with some guys in his church, and it's an over 40 league, and you should go play. And I'm like, this is great. I'm going to be like a 50-year-old joining the senior PGA Tour, because the young guys are going to kick ass. And you know what I'm saying? Like the senior PGA Tour is men who are 50 up through men who are 80. 50 is a slightly better physical condition than 80. So you frequently see guys like the day they get their senior card, they're like, time to beat up some boomers. Time to drop the elbow on some boomers. So I'm like, this is going to go great. Oh my God. It is freaking mastodons in that game. giant men. Like the 18-year-old game sucks because I'm chasing around high school and college kids. The guys I play basketball with, there's me, a guy who's 35, and 65 kids who are 18 to 22. Somewhere on the local college teams. So yes, I could play in an easier game. I went and played in that game. I came home, I'm bleeding out of one nostril. I got a bruise by this eye. I chipped my tooth. Just gigantic men. Like playing in the kids game, they're all tiny little people. They're 160 pounds. I'm a big guy. I'm almost 6'5". I'm about 230 pounds. I am the mastodon. I got in that big game. I'm like, oh, this will be easier. I'm playing with guys my age. Freaking roar. They basically had clubs and loincloths that was terrible. So yeah, I was like, forget that noise. So but yeah, as far as DFS goes, until EMAC pulled me out of obscurity and got me doing this, I was between the age of about 13 and 35. I was in a lot of like more student films, but local films, a couple low budget films that were professional, and like 45 stage productions. I don't have time to do that anymore. I was in bands. I did a little stuff with music. I spent 6 months of my life doing volunteer work in both Africa and South America. I used to travel a ton, and I have a daughter who's going to be 15 soon, who I get 3 more years with. And I love this. This is a brilliant job, and I'll never complain about doing it. Many people are paid far less to do far more difficult things. I'm grateful every day of my life to have this opportunity.
Man, so could this be the farewell tour?
I think that's the predominant likelihood. I might need the money. My daughter also had some special needs. She's doing great, but she, it can be very expensive to get her all the treatments and therapies and things she needs. So I might need the money. I might have to keep working 2 jobs. But right now it's I have 2 jobs that both take a lot of time, and I spend 60 hours a week on both of them. That leaves no time for anything. So this may be, and I've been lucky enough to do some acting and some game design and this, and again, infinitely grateful that I've been able to go through my life and swap up careers every 5 years or so. But I think I'm coming to the end of this cycle. So I have a contract with Awesemo through, I think, the end of next year's summer league. It might be through the end of this year regular season, which I will absolutely honor. And I'm not necessarily shutting the door, because it could be financial reasons, could be any number of other things. But I would say it's more likely than not that this is my farewell tour.
Man, I don't even know how to respond to this because I wasn't expecting to hear such a breaking announcement tonight.
No, it's not a. I don't think anyone.
Well, I'm honored, man.
Listen,
I'm honored to be on this live show with you.
Stop. I'm approximately the 7th smartest person at awesemo.com, and there's any number of intelligent people in the industry who do a brilliant job with content, and I consider you all my brothers. Since I'm waxing philosophical, I will say I can't stand manufactured content. I can't stand people who are just on Facebook and Twitter and whatever, just trying to fight with people because they like fighting and they consider it fun. You have any idea how much more you have in common with the other DFS hosts than you have apart? That how much more alike you are than dissimilar? Like pick, I don't know who's the DFS host who's least like me. I'll say, I don't know, Tommy G or something. He and I are still remarkably common people. It's sports and gambling and working on a website and pasty white guys who are getting old and are out of shit. Like I refuse to get in there. And there's my projections are better than your projections. Like I can't. I just can't.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying with that. It becomes exhausting, I guess is the word. When you see that, but I mean, it's still, that shouldn't take away from the talent that you have, and people look forward to hearing and seeing you. So
I am still endlessly mystified, but still remarkably touched by the really weird Fast Eddie crazies, many of whom have followed me now to 3 different sites over half a decade. And I would say, like, I would do a guest.
Let's get a petition to get Alex to give Eddie a nice raise.
That would everybody. I will post a YouTube link when I get done in a second, which is me in the ring with Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man. I was involved in an indie promotion once, and we bought him out, and I cut a promo with him, and it's truly one of the great moments of my life. But as Ted said, everybody's got a price. So that's and he's obviously got a lot of money. So yeah, maybe that's the solution to everything. But no, in all seriousness, you'll all be fine.
Someone said, Chris Randone, did you tell Crystal on Bachelor in Paradise that you played DFS before proposing? He said propursing.
Propursing?
Yeah, because my girl hates basketball season, but I play heavy every day during NBA season. I mean, DFS wasn't really any of our conversations. I mean, I've been playing since 2013, but this last year when football season started, it kind of got introduced to her. So she's a little caught off guard at first, but she enjoys it. And, she loves golf. She loves to watch golf. So it's nice.
I enjoy golf. I went to my first golf live event not that long ago. And it's really nice. I like playing. I'm a real team guy. I like bowling. I love playing golf. I don't like doing anything by myself. Like I see people like, I just went out and hit a quick 9 in the morning. I never, like the worst thing for me is running or like stationary biking. I'm not talking shit at anybody. I'm sure you are all wonderful people who get up and just run. But you know how much more fun it is when you add like a ball or other people? Like I do not understand I'm like running around, like jogging. I can get in the runner's high and obviously staying in shape and seeing different places. Track and swimming are sports I literally would have, I don't know what I would have done rather than do them, but just like, I'm going to run in a circle 4 times. How long did it take me? 1 minute and 6 seconds. Sweet. If you do that every day for the next 3 months, you might get that down to 1 minute and 5 seconds. All right. Yeah. Like, I do not understand getting excited by that shit. It drives me crazy. People are like, I just don't get. Same thing with swimming. What are you going to do? I'm going to swim up and down the pool. We got an interesting one for you today. We're going to swim up one way and swim back a different way. How long did it take you? 58 seconds. Oh, you work real hard. You can get that down to 57 seconds. Best guys in the world can do it in 56 seconds. You're not that, but we can I just like, oh my God, I don't understand. Like, I'm not a gymnastics guy, but at least you're running and flipping and doing crap. I'm not, but so that's low tier for me is like running in a circle, running around a track. Sometimes they really spice it up and they put little things for you to jump over. They put hurdles out there. That, I guess, is making it interesting. But I'm a big fan of, different competition in basketball and picking and rolling and shooting and passing and or any sport. I played, 4 varsity sports. I'm fine with any of them. But yeah, anyhow.
Dude, fun fact. I won the state championship in bowling back-to-back years.
Jesus Christ. You ever hit a 300? Hit a 300. Did you
No.
ever roll a
289 is my highest, but
Ooh.
I come from a family of bowlers, believe it or not. It's weird. But I mean, I played every sport. I used to be 300 pounds. I was an offensive lineman. So
really? Well, congratulations on that, by the way. I was thinking of doing like a diet podcast at some point because as I am old and injured, I wouldn't say I struggle with my weight, but I need to have a plan. And I think it's important because as I get like one of the reasons the biggest reason I have to stay thin is I can feel the heaviest I got was on my 39th birthday. I think it was 251 pounds. Now that probably sounds enormous to a lot of people, but I'm a big guy with a big frame. So like when I was playing sports in college and was jacked and ripped and 5% body fat, I was 204 or something. So like that's not enormous, but it's quite heavy. It's heavier than I feel good. And the pain after sports was unbelievable. Just the extra pounding on the knees and the back and just landing and crap. So so anyway, long story short, right now I'm sitting probably 226 or something. And that was after taking 2 weeks off Halloween candy, man. I don't know what the hell you're going to do. Halloween candy got in there and wrecked the diet for a little while, but congratulations.
Oh, man. I can go all day.
300. You're looking fit. I got to be honest. You're an attractive man and you're looking fit. So I have a feeling right now you're weighing like, I don't know how tall you are. I got a feeling you're like $190 or something. That is a lot of human being to shed. Like you lost 100 pounds or so. That's really significant. I tip my cap to you, sir. I doff my cap in your general direction. Bravo.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I weigh 185 now. Flirt with like 184, 185. Yeah. So, but I mean, I'll tell you what, it's definitely it's a grind, man. Just staying committed and continuing the health plan, man. It's not easy.
Yeah, it's tough as you get older too, because there's interesting like medical questions. Like there's nothing wrong with using like a fat burner or something like that. But the issue with fat burners is they actually speed your heart. So I've got this crap down to a science. I basically diet till I get down to about 217, 218, and then eat like a 12-year-old pizza and candy and whatever the hell I want until I get back to about 227. And then I basically zip in that range. I got that crap working out. At some point, I'm going to have to stop taking these pills that are basically speed.
Well, I mean, if you think so, here's the issue
when I'm 55.
So here's the issue with that is because, your heart can go into an arrhythmia. And so you have to be careful because if you have any structural issues with your heart, you obviously can have a heart attack or, something damage to the heart. But
I hear that's bad. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you got to make sure you keep an eye on that because as you get older, your heart obviously weakens and your arteries naturally become hardened. So you got to be, aware of what you're putting in your body because your body can't handle and process things like it did when it was younger.
Yeah. No, keto is amazing for me. I have a very simple diet. I can't believe we've gone into diet advice show and it's 7:30 and we're still on the air. But until Osimo, who is actually the person who has to click the button to end the show, sends me a message saying, dude, we've got football or whatever. There's our Tuesday night fantasy esports show is supposed to get off the air. I'm going to keep talking about crap until either you or he bail on me.
Someone asked me, how's the meditation going? So I meditate.
I saw your tweet. I almost made fun of you a little bit, which is not like actually made fun of you, but I saw your meditation yoga tweet.
Every morning, every night, man, 5 a.m. That's how I start my day. And then at night before I go to bed, you close it out. It's a lifeline, man. It's a must for anyone out there. It's an absolute must. It'll change your life.
I am lucky to be in a very good mental space. And I say this in all honesty. How many people we still have watching? Do we have like 1,000 people?
We have 900.
That's a good guess. It's not as good as 6% on Ben Simmons. That's still a good guess. There's 900 people watching. If you are struggling mentally, I was in profound mental crisis basically every day of my life until I was about 26. I was on Stelazine and Thorazine and Paxil and Prozac and Remeron and Depakote and just about any other drug you can name.
Wow.
I was institutionalized. I was hospitalized. I came from a very broken family, just had a really rough childhood. And I didn't shake it for a long time. And I was my life was dark. I will just leave it at that. I don't know where you are. Maybe you're darker than me. I know people who are struggling with suicide. I don't mean to make life of it, but my stuff was really, really messed up, and my life is tremendous now. Tremendous. I rarely get sad. I rarely get angry. I have a family which I love, multiple jobs which I love, opportunity, and a whole lot of joy in my life. And I haven't taken a pill to alter my state of mind in more than 15 years.
Wow.
So it can get better. I won't say it does get better. You may have terminal cancer. You may have serious issues. Your stuff may remain screwed up. I'm forced scientifically to acknowledge that if your life is crap, your life could remain crap, but it could also get better. And I'm living proof of that. So should you be struggling with anything in your life, please allow me to assure you that after being depressed every day of my life and failing out of school and failing out of college and failing out of another college and destroying multiple careers, and I managed to put everything back together again, and very rarely have a bad day. So
yeah, but it's all about how you think. You know, it's all about the mental state.
I so agree, and I brought that up because you have to choose to a certain extent to be sad. I have a friend right now who's dealing with suicidal thoughts, and we talk every day, every single day. I call him in the morning, I call him at night, and he's dealing with suicidal urges, and we talk every single day. And I say, look, he's got problems in his life. I don't want to say more because it could be identified. Yeah. I don't want to leak this person, but because they've spoken to me in privacy. But I can say I have a friend, and I have enough friends that hopefully that doesn't give it away. But and I said, look, you've got stuff in your life that is going to upset you. What you can stop is being upset about being upset.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you've got this, and you got a health problem and a job problem and a family problem. That is going to upset any person. And you should be okay with being upset. It's okay to be upset when stuff is wrong in your life. But when you start getting upset about being upset, you're starting a really bad cycle. So it's funny that you should say, it's all about your state of mind and just, having a mindset, because you have to accept that you're upset without being angry at yourself for being upset. It's okay to be.
It's all about how you respond, right?
Yeah.
To the situation at hand. And so it's interesting that you mentioned that, because Crystal and I, we went on this retreat. She went first, I went second for a whole week. And it was to find out who you are, because genetically and as we grow up, we think that we are who we are, but in reality, who we are was based on bad patterns and behaviors created as we had grown up. And so it allows us to be this person, right? This identity. However, though, that's not the true identity, because who we are as we grow up, we hold in trauma, we hold in all this hurt and pain, because, think about when you're a kid, right? When you want to scream and pout, you hold it in because you don't want to cry. All that is stored inside you. And I know it sounds weird, but energetically, it changes who you are as a person. So, we did this thing to why we started incorporating meditation and why we started incorporating this, peace in mind and really understanding our emotions and understanding how we respond to things. And it's exactly what you're saying is, if you can't control everything, but you can control how you react to things that happen to your life. Yeah. And so that it's pretty crazy.
So that's, you have a much more holistic view of things than I do. Mine is a bit more, I don't want to say practical. Mine is a bit more scientific. I don't know if that's even the right word, because it sounds like I'm dismissing you, and I'm not trying to. It works for. I have friends who are very.
No, you're right, because it could be a chemical imbalance. And so if you believe in the scientific way, right, then it's because you're trying to stabilize and come to homeostasis.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. You're talking about energy, and that's fine. And again, there's multiple words discussing the same thing here. I've always found it interesting, people who believe, and I was about to bring up religion for 2 seconds in a very oblique and friendly way. Don't worry, Alex. Alex right now is, oh God, I got to stand this straight. No, I'm not going to do anything controversial. But there were people who said, that I never understood why people couldn't agree that evolution could be the device that God used to create the earth. That it was just sort of allegorical, and I guess my thought process would be this: if you believe in God, no problem. And you believe God created man, no problem. You believe God intentionally created man to be intelligent, right? Okay. then you knew that he would then, man, search out the meanings of life. So you had to give him some answer to that question. So your options were either declare I am God, which we've previously established in most religions, including traditional Judeo-Christianity. God is unwilling to do. You have to seek him. Only the faithful will, whatever. He doesn't just stand on a mountain and go, yo, I'm God, I'm here. That's not something he does. Or you had to provide something for an intelligent man to discover. So why couldn't that have been evolution? Evolution was the mechanism God used to create and evolve life on Earth or something. Like if you, I don't understand why that is such a strange, I'm not saying I personally believe that, but I'm saying if you are someone, like I know people who are deeply, deeply religious people, and one of the things that can bother me that they say is when they are anti-scientific. And when someone goes like, well, you know, evolution is pretty well scientifically documented, and they go, well, I think you'll find that some of those scientists had an agenda. I'm like, no, okay, you're talking about literally 17 different fields of science have evolution positive evidence. It's not a conspiracy. How can you not, you know, incorporate in some way into yourself that, you know, but I was going to say, like, if holistic works for you, if energy works for you, you're not hurting anybody. That's great. Like, again, I have friends who are passionately,
well,
powerfully.
I mean, this dates back all the way, but I mean, like gone baths and sound waves. I mean, our body is 70% water. So the way to get to that the fastest is through waves of sound, right? Because that's how sound can travel the fastest, is through actual water. And so like we did this like gone bath healing with like these like breathing exercises. And it's crazy because like we don't really get enough oxygen in our body and to our brain, and to be able to really feel the way that you were just mentioning, that sometimes we can't feel because of either genetics or there's a chemical imbalance. But if people started focusing on just their breathing alone and really kind of allowed themselves to come to peace of mind and connect with themselves, it would change a lot of people in ways with as far as how they react and their behaviors and stuff. But I'm not against medicine. I mean, I was a med student, so I know all about this stuff, right? Like I was going to be a PA in cardiology, and then I went into this big financial firm because of my girlfriend at the time. But I mean, it changed my life anyway, so that was great. So I have a huge passion for health. And so I always have a passion for helping people. But I know, because I have anxiety, and I mean, I got anxiety from the show. It got even worse from being on the show and like the ridicule and the people that hate and, you know, millions of people, you know, bashing you. It's just, it's not nice. So, you know, you have to be able to make sure you maintain that level of stability in your mind, because if not, it's a devil's playground. And if you start becoming idle, it's just going to create all these thoughts, and you know, you become a train wreck. So
did you say sound moves fastest through water?
Yeah. So back in the day, the Chinese used to hit gongs to heal people who were really sick.
Okay.
And what happens is the vibration and the energy, because we are energy, water and energy. It's proven. And so
I'm into particle field duality. All things exist as both. All matter is both energy and, like, I'm with you. Go ahead.
Yeah. So these sound waves, as you're breathing, allow the energy to move through you and heal, and also rid of any emotional trauma. So a lot of disease, think about disease. What does it mean? Dis-ease. It's dis-ease of the body, right? And so as disease is taking place, right, the only way to really get rid of it first and foremost is to really cleanse your body of everything that you've been through, because who you are is a blueprint of how you were growing up. I mean, parents fighting, broken family, like all these things, like subconsciously, they affect you so deep that you don't ever address it. So in order to move forward, you have to address the past. And so like that was the retreat that we went on, and it really transformed how I look at life, how I look at people, how I look at everything, and how equal we are and how beautiful we are, each and every single one of us. Like you mentioned, all the people that kind of bash each other on Twitter and stuff like that. Like it's so unnecessary. It's not even worth it. It's such a waste of time that there's other people that actually are going through things that we could help them, but people just don't acknowledge that. And, you know, same thing with like DFS and winning and winning and winning. You know, I had a bad slump the first 4 weeks of NFL. And, you know, my wife told me, she goes, listen, don't play for the money. play because it makes you play for the fun of it. Like, have fun with it, but don't play for money, because then you're just trying to get somewhere where that's not even going to fulfill you after all. Like, you can win money, but that's not even going to fulfill you. So, these things is just these mental thought patterns that we have. It's really just making sure that it's like you said, being happy, looking at things from a different perspective, not being reactive. I mean, if we can learn how not to be reactive, it would change the world. It really would.
I really try not to. Whenever I want to get angry at someone, I try to tell myself, I don't know what's going on in that person's life. Robin Williams, one of my favorite quotes, and something I try to live by is, I might slightly butcher this, but it's something like, everyone you meet is going through a battle you know nothing about. Be kind. And it's just, I can't, there's so many good quotes on stuff like this. Like, everyone you are angry at either doesn't know or doesn't care. Almost everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so who are you hurting when you like road rage and like, I sound like some Deepak Chopra, crazy whatever, and I'm not a guru, and I get angry and I yell, but I try not to, and I'm trying to remember all the times in my life I got angry and it did something good for me. There weren't a lot. And I try to think of the men in my life, the people in my life who I've admired. And it is frequently those who had some sort of inner surety or fortitude and just never seemed too rocked by the day's events, who were able to take adversity in stride and continue to be constructive and great people. And there's my grandfather on my mother's side was just a intelligent, powerful, but very, very gentle man. And I had a teacher in high school who unfortunately has passed on since then, but just the most, they offered him headmaster of the school. And he went,
wow.
Nah, I like teaching. And it's so rare that you meet someone that, and again, this was double your salary and a house. There's a private school, jacket and tie every day. So double your salary and a house and a whatever. And I just talked to his family, went, no, I'm good. And I was there and I watched them talk about it. I was eating dinner, like when my family wasn't working, he took me in for a while. He was one of a number of people who put me up. And I was just, again, and every day I think about this man who, there's nothing wrong with ambition, but he didn't want for anything. There's no greater richness than content. And he was very content with who he was. And it's something I've strived to be. And I feel like I'm getting close to it. I like my life. And, I could chase more money with there's been a lot of times I've pivoted careers and I've never taken the job offering the highest salary just because, again, medical needs aside and stuff, money really doesn't buy happiness past a certain point. There's a point at which money is incredibly important. Changing your family's income from $20,000 to $30,000 is a massive change. People get the food they need and the medicine. That is a massive change. Going from 30 to 40, that is a really significant change. Going from 100 to 150 isn't much, and going from like 1 million to 10 million isn't anything. Like, there are people who are just like, I have so many friends who work on Wall Street or work on, and they literally are basically trying to turn their $10 million into $100 million. I have no interest in that life.
Yeah. Like,
there's nothing I need that I can't get for $10 million. Yes, my nice car will be a slightly nicer car. Yes, I will take $50,000 a week vacations instead of $10,000 a week vacations. Yes, I will leave my kids $2 million a piece instead of $250,000 a piece, but I'll work 1 billion extra hours and I'll be stressed and I have no interest in that whatsoever. It's the ultimate diminishing returns. If you're telling me I can have 1 extra hour a week of my life and I get $100 million, or I lose that hour and I get $1 billion, that's not true. I would take the $1 billion and give $900 million to charity, but you get my point. Like, there's just a point at which there is no, that simply does not work. So I'm glad to hear you following this going down the stream of your life, enjoying your ride on your particular lily pad.
No, man, you too. And honestly, you're a good guy. Everyone loves you in here, man. They always are just wanting you to do this show. So it's beautiful to see how many fans you have. And, people also get to know you more. It's like they, uncovering those other layers that people don't know. So, and, listen, people are
great. I'm sorry. If people are I'm going to take one more second. I'm going to stand on one more thing. Literally the dumbest thing I've seen, and of my friends, I will say 75% of them lean liberal. I'm a registered independent. Socially, I lean extremely liberal. I have some conservative policies when it comes to military and money and finance and things like that. But I'm a pretty liberal guy. Most of my friends are liberal. And every 7 seconds, I see someone on Twitter or Facebook say something like, if you voted for Donald Trump or a member of the Republican Party, you're a Nazi or a cruel, inhumane person. I can't stand that. It drives me insane. First of all, how do you believe that? Have you ever met a human being? Second of all, I have had so many friends who I guarantee you voted for. I'm in white bread suburban Ohio here. 70% of the people around me voted for Donald Trump, and many of them have, when my daughter is not well, sat with me and cried with me and held my hand and believe in the best of things. And I understand why a person could look at the facts as they're presented to them and say, I can't understand how any human person would do this unless they were evil, because we don't have one unifying reality anymore. When I was a kid, way back in the 19 whatevers, there was just sort of facts, and then we talked about them. Now you literally have half the country gets spanned with, these people are all socialist communists who are trying to take away, I literally read a guy today who was talking about, I served in the army for 20 years. I didn't do that so there could be socialist and communist organizations in our country. That's why I'll never whatever. The army is a socialist organization. The police force, the fire department, kind of the post office, everyone believes in socialism. We just believe in different degrees of it. There's literally no one who thinks that we shouldn't have a fire department. So if you think we should have a fire department or any sort of standing army, you believe in some degree of socialism. But just half the country thinks that, okay, AOC and Bernie Sanders are trying to take the whole country and turn us into a full communist socialist regime. And the other half of the country thinks that everyone who ever voted for Donald Trump is the most evil person ever. And neither of those things are remotely true. And I can't get these two people to talk, and it drives me crazy every day. But people are amazing.
Someone said, I came here for NBA DFS talk. I left a Zen master. Listen,
I haven't even looked at the chat because
they were loving it, man. They were loving it. Listen, I want to just close this out and just say, everyone watching, thank you for watching a live before lock tonight. We appreciate your support. Thank you for the thumbs up. Thank you for supporting Eddie Fear, Osmo.com. Thank you to our sponsor, Super Draft. And once again, guys, we hope everyone has a great night tonight. Enjoy the rest of your week. And I guess we can leave off saying this is, just be happy. Don't get upset. All right. If Joel Embiid doesn't hit value tonight, if Corey, what's his name? Corey Joseph. Yeah. I'm losing names right now because I'm so zenned out, but yeah, don't get upset. All right. Play good players. You guys have a great night, and we'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.